The crayon snapped in Eli's hand. Red wax crumbled across the paper, across the drawing of a hand. A gloved hand reaching toward a woman on a balcony. The 7th drawing this week. The 14th since the funeral. His fingers trembled as he pressed harder, darkening the glove until the paper tore. Someone pushed her. The words screamed inside his head, trapped behind teeth that wouldn't open, a tongue that had forgotten how to shape sound. 3 months of silence. 3 months since he watched his mother's white nightgown billow like wings as she fell 5 stories onto the marble fountain below. 3 months since he saw the gloved hand shove her. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to a story that's going to grab your heart and not let go. I'm so glad you're here. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. New York? London? Somewhere you're hiding from the rain? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit that button because you're not going to want to miss how this unfolds. Trust me. Now, let me tell you about 7-year-old Eli Kingsley, a boy who hasn't spoken a single word since the night his mother died, and the cleaner who's about to change everything. Eli sat cross-legged in the corner of the library, surrounded by leather-bound books he'd never read and Persian rugs worth more than most people's homes. The mansion stretched around him like a mausoleum, 42 rooms of marble and mahogany, crystal chandeliers and secrets. His father's voice boomed from the hallway. I don't pay you to coddle him, Dr. Smith. I pay you to fix him.
Elias pencil stilled.
He knew they were talking about him. They always were. Mr. Kingsley, selective mutism after trauma is an excuse. Dominic Kingsley's footsteps approached, sharp and precise. My son is not broken.
He's choosing this.
Choosing weakness. The library door opened. Eli didn't look up. He continued drawing. The balcony railing snapped clean in half. Evidence the police had called an accident. A tragic fall.
Too much wine, they'd said.
She'd been grieving her father's death, they'd said. Unsteady.
Lies.
His father's voice was granite. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. Eli's hand moved across the page.
A ring.
He drew it carefully, the signet ring with the strange symbol he'd seen on the gloved hand. 3 interlocking circles. He'd seen that ring before. Somewhere in this house. On someone's finger. God damn it. Dominic's shadow fell across the drawing. More pictures. More of this nonsense. Dr. Smith's softer voice floated in. The drawings are his way of processing. The drawings are manipulative. Dominic snatched the paper from beneath Eli's crayon. A broken railing? You're still trying to convince people she was pushed? The police investigated. It was an accident, Eli. Your mother was drunk and careless and… Eli's eyes snapped up. His father stopped mid-sentence. For just a moment, something flickered in Dominic Kingsley's face, something that wasn't quite grief. Wasn't quite anger. It was fear. Enough, Dominic said quietly, crumpling the drawing in his fist. No more pictures. No more doctors. The boy will speak when he's ready to stop this charade. He turned on his heel and left, taking Eli's evidence with him. Dr. Smith knelt beside Eli, her expression gentle. Your father's hurting too, sweetheart. He just doesn't know how to show it. She touched his shoulder. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. Okay. Eli stared at the empty space where his drawing had been. Dr. Smith didn't understand. His father didn't want him to talk.
Because talking meant telling.
And telling meant everyone would know the truth. That evening, Eli pressed his ear to his bedroom door. Voices drifted up from the foyer, his father's and someone else's. A woman's voice, unfamiliar. You'll work the East Wing primarily, said Mrs. Winters, the head housekeeper, her tone clipped and businesslike. Mr. Kingsley values privacy. You're not to speak to the family unless spoken to. You're not to enter Mr. Kingsley's study or the master bedroom. And under no circumstances are you to bother the boy. The boy. The woman's voice was warmer, curious.
Ellie.
Master Eli doesn't speak, Mrs. Winters said coldly. Hasn't since his mother's accident. It's not your concern. You're here to clean, not to get involved. Of course, the woman said. I understand. But something in her voice made Eli's heart beat faster. Something soft. Something that reminded him of…
No.
He pushed the thought away. Nothing reminded him of her anymore. His mother was gone. He climbed into bed, pulled the covers over his head, and tried not to see the falling woman every time he closed his eyes. Amara Blake carried her cleaning supplies into the East Wing at dawn. The Kingsley mansion loomed around her like a cathedral, beautiful and cold and empty. She'd worked in wealthy homes before, but never one that felt quite so much like a tomb. Every surface gleamed. Every corner was perfect. And yet the air itself seemed to hold its breath. She'd taken this job because she needed to disappear for a while. Because the pay was extraordinary. Because no one asked questions about your past when you were willing to scrub toilets for billionaires. But mostly because when the agency had mentioned a traumatized little boy who'd lost his mother, something in her chest had cracked open. She knew what it was like to lose everything. She knew what it was like to stop speaking, because words had failed you. Amara moved through the corridors quietly, dusting priceless vases, polishing floors that reflected her face like mirrors. The house was too quiet.
No laughter.
No music. Just the tick of expensive clocks and the whisper of her cloth against wood. Then she heard it. A small, choked sound from behind a door.
Crying.
Amara froze, her hand on the doorframe. Mrs. Winter's words echoed in her mind. Not your concern. You're here to clean, not to get involved. But the crying continued. Soft, broken, desperate. Before she could stop herself, Amara pushed the door open. The library was vast and shadow-filled in the early morning light. And there, in the corner behind an armchair, sat a small boy with dark hair and enormous eyes.
Ellie.
He wasn't making any sound now. His mouth was clamped shut, tears streaming silently down his face as he clutched something in his fist, a crumpled piece of paper. Their eyes met. Amara's breath caught. She'd seen eyes like that before. In her own mirror, years ago. Eyes that had witnessed something they couldn't unsee. Eyes that held secrets too terrible for words. Hey, she whispered, knowing she was breaking every rule.
Hey, sweetheart.
It's okay. Eli's tears stopped, but he didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at her like she was an apparition. Amara knelt slowly, staying several feet away.
I'm Amara. I'm
new here. She set down her cleaning supplies. You must be Eli. Nothing. Not even a nod. But he didn't run. Didn't look away. I'm not supposed to bother you, Amara continued softly. But you look like you could use a friend. She smiled gently. I'm pretty good at being quiet. If you want company that doesn't talk too much. Eli's fingers slowly uncurled from the crumpled paper. Amara saw the drawing, a hand in a glove, reaching. Her chest tightened. Did you draw that? The smallest nod. You're a good artist, she said carefully. That's a very specific love. Very detailed. Eli's eyes widened just slightly, recognition. Understanding. Someone finally seeing what he'd drawn. Amara didn't know what the drawing meant, not yet. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. This child was trying to tell someone something. And no one was listening. Can I see your other drawings? She asked gently. For the first time in 3 months, Eli Kingsley reached out to another human being. He handed her the crumpled paper. What secret is Eli trying to expose with his drawings? And why is Amara the first person who seems to truly see him? Drop a comment below with your theories. I love reading your thoughts. And make sure you're subscribed because this story is about to take turns you won't see coming. Now, let's find out who Eli is really afraid of. Over the next week, Amara learned the mansion's rhythms. Dominic Kingsley left at 6 a.m. sharp, his Italian leather shoes clicking across marble like a countdown. He returned at 8 p.m., sometimes later, smelling of expensive scotch and cigars. He never smiled, never paused in hallways, never looked at the portraits of his dead wife that still hung in the corridors, her dark eyes following everyone who passed. Mrs. Winters ran the household with military precision, 7 staff members, each with strict territories and stricter rules. The cook, Bernard, never left the kitchen. The gardener, Paolo, never came inside. The driver, James, lived above the garage. And the maids, Amara, plus two others, moved through the mansion like ghosts, seen but never acknowledged. "You're doing well," Mrs. Winters told Amara on her 5th day, inspecting the gleaming banister with a critical eye. "You follow instructions. You keep your head down. Good." What Mrs. Winters didn't know was that every morning, before the rest of the staff arrived, Amara slipped into the library, where Eli was always waiting. He never spoke, never made a sound, but he'd started leaving his drawings out for her, spread across the floor like puzzle pieces. Amara would sit cross-legged on the Persian rug, and Eli would watch as she studied each one. A balcony railing broken in the middle, a woman falling, her nightgown billowing, a hand in a black glove, pushing, a ring with 3 interlocking circles, and new ones, more recent, more detailed. A face in shadow, a door with light beneath it, a safe hidden behind a painting. "You saw something that night," Amara whispered one morning, her heart aching as she looked at the drawing of the falling woman. "You saw what really happened to your mother." Eli's small hand touched the picture. Then he pointed upward, toward the 3rd floor, toward the balcony where Victoria Kingsley had died. "And you can't tell anyone," Amara continued slowly, "because you're afraid. Afraid of what happens if the wrong person finds out you know." Eli's eyes filled with tears. He nodded. Amara's chest constricted. She understood fear like that. The kind that stole your voice. The kind that made silence feel safer than truth. She knew because she'd lived it. 3 years ago, Amara had been a teacher, Ms. Blake, the one students trusted with their secrets. Until one of those secrets had gotten her fiancé killed. Nathan, had been investigating financial crimes for the district attorney's office. Amara had overheard something at a parent-teacher conference. A casual conversation about offshore accounts and shell companies. She'd mentioned it to Nathan over dinner. 2 days later, he was dead. A random mugging, the police said. Wrong place, wrong time. But Amara knew better. She'd testified anyway. Put 3 men behind bars. And spent the next 2 years looking over her shoulder, changing her name, moving from city to city, taking jobs that didn't require background checks. She understood what it meant to witness something you shouldn't have. She understood what it cost to tell the truth. "I believe you," she whispered to Eli, and watched his eyes widen with something that looked like hope. "I don't know what happened yet, but I believe something did. And I believe you're scared." Eli's hand trembled as he picked up a purple crayon. He drew quickly, a stick-figure woman with long dark hair. Next to her, he drew a small boy holding her hand. Then he drew a heart around them both. Amara's throat tightened. "You want to feel safe again?" Eli nodded, tears spilling over. "Oh, sweetheart." Amara wanted to pull him into her arms but held back, sensing he wasn't ready for touch. "I can't promise to fix everything. But I can promise I won't leave you alone with this." "Okay." For the first time since his mother's death, Eli Kingsley almost smiled. That afternoon, Amara was polishing silver in the dining room when she heard Dominic's voice from his study. "I don't care what the board thinks, Richard. The merger happens next month, or we lose everything." A pause. "No. Eli's condition won't affect anything. He's a child. He'll adjust." Amara's hands stilled on the candlestick. "Victoria was always too soft with him," Dominic continued. "Coddling him, filling his head with music and art and nonsense. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. The boy needs to toughen up." Fury burned in Amara's chest. She'd met men like Dominic before, men who measured worth in dollars and saw emotions as weakness. Men who couldn't fathom that a 7-year-old who'd watched his mother die might need something more than discipline and distance. "The inheritance is secure," Dominic said. "Victoria's share transferred to Eli's trust, and I control it until he's 25. Everything's proceeding according to." He stopped abruptly. Amara realized too late she'd been standing frozen in the doorway, visible through the partially open door. Dominic's cold blue eyes locked onto hers. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, then stood. "You're the new cleaner." It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." Amara kept her voice steady, professional. I apologize. I didn't mean to disturb you. Yet here you are.
Disturbing me.
Dominic walked closer, and Amara forced herself not to step back. He was tall, commanding, with silver threading through dark hair and the kind of presence that demanded obedience. Mrs. Winters mentioned you've been thorough. Working early. Staying late. I take pride in my work, sir. His gaze traveled over her, assessing. How long have you been here? A week, sir. And have you had any interactions with my son? Amara's pulse jumped, but her expression remained neutral. I've seen him in passing. I follow Mrs. Winters' instructions. I don't speak to the family unless spoken to.
A lie.
Her first direct lie to Dominic Kingsley. But as his eyes bored into hers, she knew with chilling certainty this man could not know she'd been talking to Eli. Could not know about the drawings. Because there was something dangerous in the way Dominic watched her. Something calculating. Good, he said finally. My son is fragile right now. He doesn't need strangers confusing him. He needs routine, stability, discipline. Of course, sir. You may go. Amara left quickly, her heart hammering. She didn't breathe properly until she was 2 floors away. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay in her small room in the staff quarters, a modest space with a single bed and a window overlooking the gardens, and stared at the ceiling. Something was wrong in this house. Something beyond a mother's tragic death. Victoria Kingsley had fallen from a 3rd-floor balcony at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. The police report said she'd been drinking. The toxicology report showed alcohol and prescription sleep medication in her system. The railing had been old, poorly maintained. It had given way when she leaned against it. An accident. But Eli's drawings told a different story. A gloved hand. A push. A ring with 3 interlocking circles. And Dominic's words echoed in Amara's mind. The inheritance is secure. Victoria's share transferred to Eli's trust, and I control it until he's 25. Money. It always came down to money with men like Dominic. Amara sat up, pulling her laptop from under her bed. She'd been careful not to leave digital footprints since Nathan's death, but this was worth the risk. She typed, Victoria Kingsley death. The search results loaded. Dozens of articles.
Sozialite diesen Tagesfall.
Billionaire's wife mourned. Kingsley empire in transition. Amara scrolled through them, looking for details the police might have missed. Then she found it. A small article from a financial blog, published 2 weeks before Victoria's death. Victoria Kingsley files for divorce. Sources close to the Kingsley family confirmed that Victoria Kingsley, 34, has filed for divorce from husband Dominic Kingsley, 42, CEO of Kingsley Industries. The couple's prenuptial agreement allegedly includes a substantial payout and shared custody of their son, Eli, 7. A hearing was scheduled for. The article ended abruptly. No follow-up.
No correction.
As if it had been published then buried. Because Victoria had died before the divorce could be finalized. Amara's blood ran cold. Victoria hadn't just died. She died conveniently, right before she could leave Dominic. Right before she could take half his fortune and their son. And Eli had witnessed it. A soft sound made Amara jump. She looked up to find a small figure in her doorway. Eli stood in his pajamas, barefoot, tears streaming down his face. He was holding a piece of paper, another drawing. Amara's door wasn't supposed to be accessible to the family. The staff quarters were separate. But somehow Eli had found his way here. Sweetheart. Amara breathed, closing her laptop quickly. What's wrong? Eli crossed the room and thrust the drawing at her. Amara's breath caught. The picture showed a man, tall, broad-shouldered, standing over a woman's body. The woman was lying on the ground beside a fountain. And on the man's hand was a ring. A ring with 3 interlocking circles. Who is this? Amara whispered. Eli's finger touched the man in the drawing. Then he turned and pointed down the hallway. Toward the main house. Toward Dominic Kingsley's bedroom. Amara's world tilted. Eli was saying his father had killed his mother. A 7-year-old boy, traumatized and silent, was accusing one of the most powerful men in the state of murder. Eli, Amara said carefully, kneeling to his level. Are you telling me your father pushed your mother? Eli's whole body trembled. He nodded once, sharp and certain. Then, he did something that broke Amara's heart. He pressed his small hand over his mouth, the universal sign for silence, and pointed at himself. Then, he made a slashing gesture across his throat.
If I talk, I die.
Oh, baby.
No. No.
Amara couldn't help it anymore. She pulled him into her arms, and for the first time, Eli let her. He collapsed against her, his small body shaking with silent sobs. I won't let anything happen to you. I promise. But even as she said it, Amara knew the terrible truth. If Dominic Kingsley had killed his wife to keep his fortune, he wouldn't hesitate to silence his son. And now, by helping Eli, Amara had made herself a target too. What do you think? Is Dominic really the killer, or is there someone else in that mansion Eli fears? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're feeling the story, hit that subscribe button, because things are about to get even more intense. Amara held Eli until his trembling stopped. Listen to me, she whispered into his dark hair. I need you to go back to your room, okay? If anyone finds out you came here, we'll both be in trouble. Can you be brave for me? Eli pulled back, wiping his eyes. He nodded. Tomorrow morning, library. Same time. We'll figure this out together. Eli hesitated, then reached up and touched Amara's cheek, a gesture so tender, so trusting, it nearly destroyed her. Then he slipped out of her room like a shadow. Amara stood alone in the darkness, her mind racing. A 7-year-old's drawing wasn't evidence. It wasn't proof. Any lawyer would tear it apart, the traumatized imagination of a grieving child. But Amara had seen Eli's eyes, had felt his certainty, and she'd found that buried article about the divorce. If Victoria had been about to leave Dominic, take half his fortune, and fight for custody, that was motive. That was reason enough for a man who valued control above all else. But proving it? That was another matter entirely. Amara made a decision that would change everything. She was going to find proof. The next morning, Amara waited until the house was in full rhythm, Dominic gone to his office, Mrs. Winters occupied with the cook, the other maids busy in the west wing. Then she slipped into Dominic's study. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she closed the door silently behind her. The study was magnificent, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive oak desk, leather chairs, and windows overlooking the gardens where Victoria had died. Where did powerful men hide their secrets? Amara moved to the desk first, trying drawers.
Locked.
She pulled a hairpin from her pocket, a skill she'd learned from a life that required survival over propriety, and worked the lock until it clicked open. Inside, files, contracts, business documents. She photographed everything with her phone, hands shaking. Then she found it. A folder marked personal, confidential. Inside was Victoria's death certificate, the police report, and beneath those, a letter. Amara's breath caught as she read. Dominic, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I have evidence of what you've done, the fraud, the embezzlement, the offshore accounts. If you contest this divorce, if you try to keep me from Eli, I'll take everything to the authorities. You'll lose the company, your reputation, and your freedom. Sign the papers. Let us go. Or I'll destroy you. The letter was dated 3 days before Victoria's death. Amara's hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped the paper. Victoria had been blackmailing Dominic, threatening to expose financial crimes. And then she'd accidentally fallen from a balcony. This was it. This was motive. This was. Find anything interesting? Amara spun around, her heart stopping. A man stood in the doorway, tall, lean, perhaps mid-30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to catalog everything about her in seconds. He wore an expensive suit but carried himself like someone who'd learned polish later in life. Someone who'd had to fight for what he had. I was just cleaning. Amara started, shoving the letter back into the folder. With a camera phone? The man stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Interesting cleaning technique. Amara's mind raced for escape routes, explanations, anything. Relax, the man said, holding up his hands. I'm not going to call Dominic. Though I am curious what a cleaner is doing photographing confidential documents. Who are you? Amara demanded, trying to sound braver than she felt. Julian Corleone. He extended a hand, which Amara didn't take. I'm the family attorney, and you're the new cleaner who's been spending unsupervised time with Eli. Amara's blood turned to ice. I don't know what you... I know everything that happens in this house, Julian interrupted smoothly. I know you arrive early. I know Eli's been more animated this week than he's been in months. I know you're not just a cleaner. He moved closer, and Amara found herself backed against the desk. So let me ask again, Julian said quietly. What are you really doing here, Amara Blake? And yes, I know your name. I know everything about you, including the fact that Amara Blake doesn't exist beyond 2 years ago. Fear spiked through her. If you're here to threaten me, I'm here to help you. Amara blinked.
What?
Julian's expression shifted, something raw and urgent breaking through his professional mask. I've been trying to prove Dominic killed Victoria for 3 months, but I'm his attorney. I can't investigate him without cause, without evidence, without risking my career and my life. He glanced at the folder in Amara's hands. But you're not bound by attorney-client privilege. You're not on anyone's radar. And most importantly, his voice softened, Eli trusts you. How do you know that? Because I've been watching him, watching this house. And you're the first person he's responded to since Victoria died. Julian's jaw tightened. I loved her.
Victoria.
Not romantically. She was my friend. My best friend since law school. And I know Dominic killed her. I just can't prove it. Amara's world was shifting too fast. Why should I trust you? Because you don't have a choice. Julian pulled out his phone, showing her a video. Amara's stomach dropped. It was security footage of her entering Dominic's study, breaking into his desk, photographing documents. The house has cameras everywhere, Julian said quietly. Most of them feed directly to Dominic's security team. But a few I installed myself. To protect Victoria. I was too late for her. But I can still protect Eli. You're blackmailing me. I'm recruiting you. Julian's eyes burned with intensity. Dominic is planning something. A merger that will consolidate his power and make him untouchable. It happens in 3 weeks. If we don't expose him before then, Eli will never be safe. Victoria's death will never be avenged. Amara's mind raced. Could she trust this man? He could be working with Dominic, testing her loyalty. Or he could be genuine, a grief-stricken friend seeking justice. Eli drew a ring, Amara said slowly, watching Julian's reaction. 3 interlocking circles. On the hand that pushed Victoria. Julian's face went pale. The Kingsley family crest. Dominic wears it. His father wore it. His grandfather. He stopped, understanding flooding his features. Eli saw the ring. He saw everything. Then Eli can identify his mother's killer. Julian ran a hand through his hair. But his testimony won't hold up in court. He's 7 and hasn't spoken in months. We need physical evidence. The gloves. The ring. Something that places Dominic on that balcony. Or, Amara said carefully, we need to make Dominic confess. Julian stared at her. You're serious. You said I'm not on anyone's radar. Which means Dominic doesn't see me as a threat. Just a cleaner. Amara's determination hardened into steel. People like Dominic talk around people like me. They reveal things because they think we're invisible. He's not just powerful, Amara. He's dangerous. If he even suspects. I know dangerous men, Amara interrupted. I've survived them before. Julian studied her for a long moment. You're not really a cleaner, are you? Not anymore. Amara met his gaze. But I am someone who keeps promises. And I promised Eli I'd help him. Something shifted in Julian's expression. Respect, maybe. Or something deeper. Something that made Amara suddenly aware of how close they were standing, how intense his dark eyes were, how he was looking at her like she was the answer to a prayer he'd stopped believing would be answered. Partners then, Julian said, extending his hand again. This time, Amara took it. His grip was warm, firm, steady. Partners, she agreed. Then the door opened. Mrs. Winters stood there, her face white with fury. What, she said icily, is going on here? Amara's heart plummeted. Julian smoothly stepped back, his expression shifting to cool professionalism. I was just informing the cleaning staff about Mr. Kingsley's requirements for the study. He's having important guests next week. Mrs. Winters' suspicious gaze moved between them. Mr. Corleone, the cleaning staff reports to me. Not to you. Of course. My apologies. Julian smiled pleasantly. I'll coordinate through you in the future. He left without looking at Amara again. Mrs. Winters advanced into the room, her eyes landing on the desk, on the drawer that wasn't quite closed, the folder that wasn't quite straight. You were told, she said softly, dangerously, that this room is off-limits unless Mr. Kingsley is present. I'm sorry, Amara said quickly. Mr. Corleone asked me to. Mr. Corleone doesn't give orders in this house. Mrs. Winters' eyes were chips of ice.
Ido.
And I'm telling you now, stay away from the family. Stay away from Mr. Kingsley's private spaces. Stay away from that boy. The venom in the last words made Amara's skin crawl. Do you understand? Mrs. Winters pressed. Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Because the last cleaner who overstepped boundaries was let go immediately. Mrs. Winters' smile was thin and sharp. And we wouldn't want that to happen to you, would we? Especially since I imagine someone with your limited references would have difficulty finding new employment. It was a threat, a clear, unmistakable threat. Amara lowered her eyes, submissively. I understand. Excellent. You may return to the East Wing. Amara left, her pulse hammering. But as she walked down the corridor, she realized something that made her blood run cold. Mrs. Winters had been in the house the night Victoria died. Mrs. Winters, who wore her own ring on her right hand, a ring Amara had never looked at closely before. Mrs. Winters, who had access to every room, every secret, every member of the Kingsley family, and who had just threatened Amara the moment she'd gotten close to the truth. The house has more secrets than just Dominic's, and Amara just made herself a target. What do you think about Julian? Can he be trusted, or is he playing his own game? Let me know in the comments. And if you're hooked, make sure you're subscribed because the next part is going to blow your mind. Amara didn't go to the East Wing. She went straight to the library, where Eli was waiting with his drawings spread across the floor like a paper crime scene. He looked up when she entered, his dark eyes questioning. Amara knelt beside him, her mind still reeling from everything that had just happened.
Julian.
Mrs. Winters. The letter. The video footage. I need to ask you something important, she said softly. And I need you to show me the answer, okay?
Eli noted.
The night your mother died. Amara pulled out her phone, navigating to the photos she'd taken of the household staff. Was anyone else there? Besides your father? Eli's small hand trembled as he pointed at the screen. At Mrs. Winters. Then he picked up a black crayon and drew rapidly. 2 figures on the balcony. One pushing. One falling. And in the corner, watching, another figure. A woman with her hair in a tight bun. Mrs. Winters saw it happen. Amara breathed. Eli nodded, then drew something else. A finger pressed to lips. The universal symbol for silence. She told you not to tell. Another nod, more vigorous. Then Eli drew something that made Amara's blood freeze, the woman with the bun handing something to the tall man. Something small and rectangular.
Money? No. Too thin.
A phone. Mrs. Winters had given something to Dominic. After Victoria fell. Evidence? A recording device? She helped him, Amara whispered. She's protecting him. Eli's eyes filled with tears. He pointed himself, then made that awful slashing gesture across his throat again. Mrs. Winters had threatened him. A 7-year-old child who just watched his mother die. Rage burned through Amara's veins, white-hot and righteous. She can't hurt you, Amara said fiercely, taking Eli's small hands in hers. I won't let her. I won't let anyone hurt you. Do you understand? Eli stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something extraordinary. He opened his mouth. No sound came out. His throat worked, his lips moved, but 3 months of silence had built walls too thick to break in a moment. But he was trying. For the first time since his mother's death, Eli Kingsley was trying to speak. "It's okay," Amara said quickly, her eyes stinging with tears. "You don't have to force it. When you're ready, the words will come. I promise." Eli's expression crumpled. He threw his arms around Amara's neck and held on like she was the only solid thing in his collapsing world. And Amara held him back, making a silent vow. She would protect this child, no matter what it cost, even if it cost her everything. That evening, Amara's phone buzzed with an unknown number.
Meet me.
Gardens. Midnight.
Julian.
Amara waited until the house settled into its uneasy sleep, staff in their quarters, Dominic locked in his study with his scotch and his secrets. Then she slipped outside. The gardens were magnificent even in darkness, sculpted hedges, marble fountains, paths that wound through perfectly manicured roses and lilies. The fountain where Victoria had died stood in the center, its water shut off since that terrible night. Julian emerged from the shadows near a stone bench. "You came," he said, something like relief in his voice. "You have security footage of me committing crimes," Amara said dryly. "Didn't seem like I had much choice. I deleted it. All of it." Julian held up his phone, showing her. "From every server. You're clean." Amara blinked. "Why would you?" "Because I'm asking you to trust me. And trust goes both ways." Julian pocketed his phone. "I won't blackmail you into helping Amara. You're either in this because you want to be, or you're not in it at all." Amara studied him in the moonlight. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves, and for the first time looked less like a polished attorney and more like a man carrying the weight of grief and guilt. "Eli saw Mrs. Winters that night," Amara said. "She witnessed Victoria's murder. And she's protecting Dominic." Julian's jaw tightened. "That explains why she changed her statement." "What do you mean?" "The police report. Mrs. Winters initially told officers she heard arguing before Victoria fell. But the next day, she recanted. Said she'd been mistaken. That the house had been quiet all evening." Julian's hands clenched into fists. "I thought Dominic had paid her off. But if she was actually there—" "She's an accomplice," Amara finished. "Which means we're not just up against Dominic. We're up against everyone he controls in this house." "Not everyone." Julian met her gaze. "I spoke to Bernard, the cook. He's been with the family for 20 years. He loved Victoria. He might help us." "Might?" "He's terrified of losing his job. His daughter has medical bills. Dominic knows how to leverage people's vulnerabilities." Julian's voice turned bitter. "It's his specialty." Amara thought of the letter. Victoria's threats to expose Dominic's financial crimes. The fraud Victoria mentioned in her letter, what was it? Julian hesitated. "If I tell you, you become part of a conspiracy. If this goes wrong, you could go to prison for knowing and not reporting. I'm already part of this. Tell me." Julian exhaled slowly. "Dominic's been embezzling from his own company for years. Siphoning money through shell corporations, hiding assets offshore. The board doesn't know. The investors don't know. If it came out, Kingsley Industries would collapse. Dominic would lose everything." But Victoria found out. She was smarter than Dominic ever gave her credit for. She had a degree in forensic accounting. That's how they met, actually. She was auditing one of his subsidiaries. Julian's expression softened with memory. She started noticing discrepancies. When she confronted him, he convinced her it was legitimate tax strategy. But when she filed for divorce, she dug deeper. Found the real extent of it. 3 days later, she was dead. Julian's voice cracked. "I should have protected her. She called me that night. Said she was scared. Said Dominic had been acting strange. I told her to lock her door, that I'd come first thing in the morning. But by morning..." His grief was palpable, radiating off him in waves. Without thinking, Amara reached out and touched his arm. "It's not your fault, isn't it?" Julian looked at her, his dark eyes haunted. I'm the one who encouraged her to stand up to him, to fight for Eli. I'm the reason she's dead. No, Amara said firmly. Dominic is the reason she's dead. And Mrs. Winters. And anyone else who helped or stayed silent.
Not you.
Julian stared at her, something shifting in his expression. You're remarkable. You know that. Amara felt heat rise in her cheeks. You're not just anything. Julian stepped closer, his voice dropping. You've been here a week and you've gotten closer to Eli than anyone has in months. You're risking your safety to help a child who isn't yours. You broke into a billionaire's study with nothing but a hairpin and courage. The corner of his mouth lifted. That's not just anything. Amara's breath caught. She was suddenly very aware of how close they were standing. How Julian was looking at her, not like a cleaner, not like a co-conspirator, but like a woman. Like someone worth seeing. I'm not a hero, Amara said quietly. I'm just someone who couldn't walk away. Why not? Most people would. Amara thought of Nathan. Of the students she'd failed to protect by staying silent too long. Of all the times she'd been invisible because it was safer than being seen. Because I know what it's like to be small and scared and have no one believe you, she said. And I swore I'd never let that happen to someone else if I could stop it. Julian's hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek so gently she almost thought she'd imagined it. Victoria would have liked you, he murmured. Then his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Julian pulled back, checking the screen. His expression went dark. Security alert. Someone's in Dominic's study. At this hour? Come on. They ran through the gardens toward the house, staying in shadows. Julian used his key to enter through the kitchen, and they moved silently through darkened hallways. Light spilled from beneath Dominic's study door. Julian held up a hand. Wait, and eased the door open a crack. Amara peered through. Mrs. Winters stood at Dominic's desk, the same folder Amara had found open before her. She was photographing the contents with her phone. She's documenting evidence, Julian breathed. But why? They watched as Mrs. Winters carefully replaced everything, then moved to a painting on the wall, the same one from Eli's drawing. The safe hidden behind a painting. She removed the artwork, revealing a wall safe. Her fingers flew over the keypad. The safe opened. Mrs. Winters pulled out a black bag, small, velvet, expensive-looking. She opened it, and even from their hiding spot, Amara could see what was inside. Black leather gloves. And a ring with 3 interlocking circles. The murder weapons. She's taking them, Amara whispered urgently. She's destroying evidence. Julian was already moving, shoving the door open. Mrs. Winters spun around, her face going white, then red with fury. Mr. Corleone, she said, her voice deadly calm. And the cleaner. How? Unexpected. Step away from the safe, Julian ordered. Mrs. Winters smiled, a terrible, cold smile. Or what? You'll call the police? Tell them I'm stealing from my employer? I'm sure Mr. Kingsley would be very interested to hear about you breaking into his study. About you recruiting staff to spy on him. We know you were there, Amara said, stepping forward. The night Victoria died. We know you saw what Dominic did. Something flickered in Mrs. Winters' eyes. Fear? Guilt? You don't know anything, she said. Eli saw you, Amara pressed. He's been drawing you. Drawing what happened. And when we take those gloves to the police, when we test them for DNA evidence. There won't be any evidence, Mrs. Winters interrupted. These gloves are clean. I made sure of it. Then she seemed to realize what she'd just admitted. Julian's expression turned triumphant. You just confessed to destroying evidence in a murder investigation. Mrs. Winters' composure cracked. You don't understand. You don't know what he's capable of. Then tell us, Amara urged. Help us. Testify against him. Testify. Mrs. Winters laughed bitterly. You think I'm protecting him? You think I want to cover up what he did to Victoria? Her eyes filled with unexpected tears. I loved that woman. She was kind to me, generous. She treated me like a person, not a servant. Then why? Julian started. Because he has my daughter. Mrs. Winter's voice broke. My Hallie. She's in a private facility for her addiction. A facility Dominic pays for. He made it very clear, I keep quiet about what I saw, or Hallie ends up on the street. Without treatment, without help, she'll die. The room fell silent. Amara's heart twisted. Mrs. Winters wasn't a villain. She was another victim, another person Dominic was controlling through fear and leverage. We can protect your daughter, Julian said urgently. We can move her, get her somewhere safe. With what money? Mrs. Winters demanded. I'm a housekeeper. That facility costs $15,000 a month. Where am I supposed to get that kind of? A slow clap echoed from the doorway. All three of them froze. Dominic Kingsley stood there, still in his suit despite the late hour, his expression one of amused contempt. Such a touching scene, he said, stepping into the study. My attorney, my housekeeper, and my cleaner, all conspiring against me in my own home. Behind him, two large men in security uniforms appeared. Mr. Kingsley, Julian said carefully, his lawyer instincts kicking in. We were just breaking into my safe, discussing my late wife, planning to involve the police. Dominic's smile was sharp as a blade. Yes, I heard. Everything. This room has excellent acoustics. Amara's blood turned to ice. And Mrs. Winters, I'm disappointed. Dominic's gaze landed on his housekeeper. 14 years of loyalty, destroyed in one night. I suppose Hallie will have to find a new treatment facility. One significantly less comfortable.
No.
Mrs. Winters' face crumpled. Please, Mr. Kingsley, You were just making a choice, Dominic said coldly. And choices have consequences. He nodded to the security guards. Escort Mrs. Winters to pack her belongings. She's terminated. Effective immediately. You can't do this. Mrs. Winters cried as the guards took her arms. I just did. As they dragged her away, Mrs. Winters locked eyes with Amara. The boy, she gasped. Protect the boy. Then she was gone. Dominic turned to Julian and Amara, his expression calculating. Now, he said softly, dangerously, what am I going to do with you two? Julian stepped in front of Amara protectively. You're going to do nothing. Because I'm your attorney, and attorney-client privilege means anything I saw here tonight stays confidential. And Amara is simply an employee who is cleaning. At midnight. Dominic raised an eyebrow. How dedicated. Fire me if you want, Amara said, her voice steadier than she felt. But you can't threaten Julian. He knows too much. And if anything happens to him, those secrets he's keeping become very public. Dominic studied her with new interest. You're braver than you look, Ms. Blake. Or should I say? He paused, enjoying her fear. Well, I'm not sure what I should call you, since Amara Blake isn't your real name, is it? Amara's heart stopped. Did you think I don't vet everyone who works in my home? Dominic continued. I know you appeared 2 years ago with fabricated references. I know you're running from something. I just don't know what yet. He smiled. But I will. I always do. Leave her alone, Julian growled. Or what, Julian? You'll expose my financial dealings? We both know you can't without destroying your own career. Disbarment. Prison time for conspiracy. Is that really worth it for a woman you just met? Julian's jaw clenched, but he didn't back down. Dominic laughed. I thought not. He moved to his desk, pressing a button. I'm not going to fire you, Ms. Blake. In fact, I'm promoting you. Starting tomorrow, you'll be Eli's personal caretaker. Room and board in the family wing. 24-hour access to my son. Amara's blood ran cold. What? It's perfect, really. You've already bonded with him, despite being told not to. And Julian here clearly trusts you to help with whatever this is. Dominic's eyes glittered with malice. Now I can keep both of you exactly where I can see you. All day. Every day. Until I figure out exactly what you're planning. I won't, Amara started. You will. Because if you refuse, I'll have Julian disbarred for ethics violations. I have security footage of him accessing confidential client files without authorization, sharing privileged information with unauthorized parties. Dominic's smile widened. Your choice, Ms. Blake. Accept the promotion and stay close to Eli. Or condemn Julian to lose everything he's worked for. Amara looked at Julian, who'd gone pale. Don't do it, Julian said quietly. Don't let him trap you. I accept, Amara said. Excellent. Dominic pressed the intercom. Mrs. Smith, prepare the nursery suite for our new nanny. Ms. Blake will be moving in tonight. You're a monster, Amara breathed. I'm a businessman, Dominic corrected. And right now, you and Julian are liabilities I need to manage. So here's how this works. You'll care for my son. You'll report his progress to me daily. And you'll cease all this ridiculous investigation into Victoria's accidental death. It wasn't an accident, Amara said. Prove it. Dominic's voice turned to steel. But do it under my roof, under my watch, with my rules. Because the moment you step out of line, the moment you make one wrong move. He glanced toward the hallway, where Eli's bedroom was located.
Well,
accidents happen in the best of families, don't they? The threat was clear. Cooperate, or Eli would be in danger. Amara's hands shook with rage and fear, but she forced herself to nod. Smart girl. Dominic turned to Julian. As for you, you'll continue serving as family attorney. And you'll remember that everything you've seen and heard is protected by privilege. If you violate that, I'll destroy you. Understood. Julian's eyes burned with hatred, but he nodded.
Good.
Now get out of my study. Both of you. Julian caught Amara's arm in the hallway. This is bad, he whispered urgently. He's isolating you, keeping you close where he can control you. I know, Amara said, but I can't leave Eli.
Not now.
Not when Dominic knows we're investigating. He'll be watching your every move. Then I'll be careful. Amara met his gaze. We're running out of time. You said the merger happens in 3 weeks. 2.5 now. Then we have 2.5 weeks to find proof. Real proof. The kind that can't be dismissed or destroyed. Amara's resolve hardened. I'll be inside now.
Closer torstai Eli.
Closer to the family. Maybe I'll see something, hear something. Or maybe Dominic will make sure you have an accident too. Amara thought of Nathan. Of all the times she'd run instead of fighting. Then you'll have to make sure my death doesn't go uninvestigated, she said. Julian grabbed her shoulders, his expression fierce. Don't talk like that. Don't even think like that. Why do you care? Amara asked softly. You barely know me. Julian stared at her, something raw and honest in his eyes. Because Victoria asked me to protect Eli if anything happened to her. And somehow you're the key to doing that. You're the one he trusts. The one he's trying to talk to. His grip gentlened. And because I haven't met anyone this brave, this stubborn, this willing to fight for what's right in, maybe ever. Amara's breath caught. Don't get yourself killed, Julian whispered. Please. Then he did something that shocked them both. He kissed her. It was brief, desperate, a kiss born of fear and adrenaline, and something deeper neither of them was ready to name. When he pulled back, Amara's heart was racing. I'm sorry, Julian said. I shouldn't have. Do it again when we've won? Amara interrupted, her cheeks flushed. When Eli's safe and Dominic's in prison. Do it again then. Julian's eyes darkened with promise. That's a deal. Then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows, leaving Amara alone in the hallway. She touched her lips, still feeling the ghost of that kiss. Then she turned toward the nursery suite, toward her new prison, and toward Eli, who needed her now more than ever. Dominic just made his biggest mistake, bringing Amara closer to the truth. But has he also put her in more danger than she can handle? What did you think of that kiss? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And hit subscribe if you're on the edge of your seat, because this story is about to get even more intense. The nursery suite was a gilded cage. Beautiful in the way that wealth makes everything beautiful. Soft carpets, elegant furniture, windows overlooking the gardens. But the door had a lock on the outside. The windows didn't open more than 3 inches. and cameras watched from two corners, their red lights blinking like predator eyes. Amara set down her small bag and surveyed her new prison. A connecting door led to Eli's bedroom. She knocked softly, then entered. Eli sat on his bed in dinosaur pajamas, his eyes wide and frightened. When he saw Amara, relief flooded his small face. "Hey, sweetheart," Amara said gently, kneeling beside the bed. "Guess what? I'm going to be staying here now, taking care of you. Is that okay?" Eli nodded vigorously, then pointed to the cameras. "I know," Amara whispered. "Your father's watching, so we have to be very careful about what we say and do. But I'm still here. I'm still on your side. Okay." Eli threw his arms around her neck. Amara held him, her heart breaking. This child had lost his mother, been threatened into silence, and was now trapped in a house with her killer. But he wasn't alone anymore. "Let's get you back to sleep," Amara murmured, tucking him in. As she turned to leave, Eli grabbed her hand. He pointed to himself, then to her, then made a heart with his small fingers. "I love you." Amara's eyes stung with tears. "I love you too, brave boy. Now sleep. Tomorrow, we'll figure this out together." She left the connecting door open and returned to her own room, very aware of the cameras watching her every move. Dominic wanted to control her, intimidate her, make her too scared to continue investigating. He'd made a critical mistake. He'd given her 24-hour access to Eli, and to the family wing, and to secrets she couldn't have reached as a cleaner. Amara smiled grimly at the camera. Game on. The next morning, Dominic summoned her to breakfast. The dining room was obscenely grand, a table that could seat 20, set with china and crystal for just two. Dominic sat at the head, reading the Wall Street Journal. Eli sat 3 chairs away, pushing eggs around his plate. Ms. Blake." Dominic didn't look up from his paper. "I trust you slept well?" "Very well, thank you." Amara took a seat next to Eli, who immediately brightened.
Good.
"Let me explain your duties." Dominic finally lowered the paper, his blue eyes cold and assessing. "You'll ensure Eli eats properly, exercises, completes his homeschool curriculum. You'll report any behavioral issues directly to me. You'll accompany him everywhere, library, gardens, his bedroom. Everywhere. Of course. And you'll remember that you're staff, not family, not a replacement for his mother. Simply an employee doing a job."
Dominic esnat se fistev torstai eli.
"Isn't that right, son?" Eli stared at his plate. "I asked you a question, Eli." Dominic's voice hardened. "The least you can do is acknowledge me, even if you refuse to speak." Eli's hands trembled. Rage burned in Amara's chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. Perhaps Eli could nod or shake his head? Perhaps Eli could act like a Kingsley instead of a coward, Dominic snapped. That did it. "He's 7 years old," Amara said, her voice sharp. "And he's traumatized. Calling him a coward isn't going to help him heal." The room fell silent. Dominic set down his coffee cup very slowly. "Excuse me? You hired me to care for him. That includes his emotional well-being. And right now, what he needs is patience and understanding, not criticism. What he needs," Dominic said softly, dangerously, "is to stop this manipulation and speak. He spoke perfectly well before his mother's accident. He can speak now if he chooses to. Trauma doesn't work that way. I don't pay you to psychoanalyze my son, Ms. Blake. I pay you to follow instructions." Dominic stood, tossing his napkin on the table. "One more outburst like that, and you're terminated. Are we clear?" Amara met his gaze steadily. "Crystal. Good. I have meetings in the city. I'll return this evening. By then, I expect to hear that Eli has had a productive day." He paused at the doorway. "Oh, and Ms. Blake? The cameras record audio as well as video. Keep that in mind." Then he was gone. Amara exhaled slowly, her hands shaking. Eli's small hand crept into hers under the table. She squeezed it gently. "It's okay," she whispered.
He's gone.
"You're safe." Eli looked up at her with such trust, such hope, that Amara knew she'd made the right choice staying. Even if it killed her. They spent the morning in the library, Eli's favorite room. Amara pretended to read while Eli drew, both of them hyper-aware of the camera in the corner. But Eli was clever. He positioned himself so his body blocked the camera's view of his drawings, and he worked quickly. When he was done, he slid the paper to Amara. It showed the mansion, a bird's-eye view, with X marks on specific rooms. "What are these?" Amara whispered. Eli pointed to one X, his mother's old bedroom. Then another X, Dominic's study. A third X, the basement. "These are places with clues?" Amara guessed.
Eli nodded Kerli.
Then he drew something else, a key. A small, old-fashioned key. "You found a key?" He shook his head, then pointed to the drawing of his mother's bedroom. "The key is in your mother's room?"
Yes.
"And it opens something important." Eli drew a box. Then he drew the 3 interlocking circles, the Kingsley crest. "It opens something with your family's symbol on it?" Eli's expression grew urgent. He tapped the drawing repeatedly. Whatever was in that box, it was important. "Okay," Amara breathed. "We need to get into your mother's room." Eli bit his lip, then pointed at the camera. "I know. Your father's watching." Amara thought quickly. "But he's in the city today. And he said I should accompany you everywhere. So, if you wanted to visit your mother's room to feel close to her, that would be part of caring for you, wouldn't it?" Eli's eyes lit up. "Give me an hour to make it look natural," Amara said. "Then we'll go together." At noon, Amara led Eli through the corridors toward the West Wing. Victoria's bedroom had been sealed since her death, door locked, curtains drawn, everything left exactly as it had been that terrible night. But Amara had lifted the key ring from Mrs. Winter's old desk that morning, and now she used it to unlock the door. The room beyond was a shrine. Victoria's perfume still hung in the air. Her jewelry sat on the vanity. Her bed was still unmade, covers thrown back, as if she'd just risen. As if she might walk back in at any moment.
Eliesters hitched.
Tears spilled down his cheeks as he looked at his mother's things. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," Amara whispered, kneeling beside him. "This must be so hard." Eli wiped his eyes, then pointed to the closet. They crossed the room together. The closet was massive, a walk-in filled with designer clothes, shoes, handbags. But Eli went directly to a shelf high above the clothing racks. He pointed up. Amara pulled over a step stool and climbed. On the top shelf, behind a stack of sweaters, was a locked jewelry box. Carved into the lid, the Kingsley crest. "Is this it?" Amara asked.
Eli nodded.
"Where's the key?" Eli scrambled to the vanity, pulling out drawers. From the very back of the bottom drawer, he extracted a small key on a delicate chain. His mother had hidden it, which meant whatever was in this box, she hadn't wanted Dominic to find. Amara unlocked the box with trembling hands. Inside was a flash drive, and a letter, addressed in elegant handwriting, for Eli, when he's old enough to understand. "Oh my God," Amara breathed. Eli's small hand clutched her sleeve, his eyes wide. "Your mother left you evidence," Amara whispered. "Whatever's on this drive, it's what she wanted you to know." She pocketed the flash drive and the letter just as footsteps echoed in the hallway. Amara's heart stopped. Dominic wasn't supposed to be home until evening. She grabbed Eli's hand and they ducked behind the bed just as the bedroom door opened. But it wasn't Dominic. It was Julian. "Amara," he called softly. "I saw you come in here on the security feed." Amara stood. "You're monitoring the cameras?" "I installed a backdoor into the system. I've been watching, making sure you and Eli are safe." Julian's gaze landed on the jewelry box. "What did you find?" Amara showed him the flash drive. Julian's expression turned fierce. "Victoria's evidence. She told me she was compiling it, but I never knew where she hid it. We need to see what's on it."
"Now."
"Not here. Dominic could come home early. The cameras are recording everything," Amara finished. "Where then?" Julian pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "I'm looping the feed, giving us a 10-minute window. My car is in the garage. We can use my laptop there." They moved quickly, Eli between them, racing through corridors to the garage. Julian's sleek black car chirped open. They piled into the back seat, and Julian pulled out his laptop. "Here goes," he muttered, inserting the flash drive. The screen filled with folders.
Dozens of them.
Financial records, offshore accounts, email correspondence, board meeting transcripts. Julian opened the financial records. Amara's jaw dropped. It wasn't just embezzlement. It was systematic fraud on a massive scale. Hundreds of millions of dollars siphoned from Kingsley Industries over a decade. Falsified reports. Fake subsidiaries. Money laundering through international banks. This would destroy him. Julian breathed. This would send him to prison for 20 years minimum. Why didn't Victoria go to the police? Amara asked. Julian opened another folder, insurance. Inside was a video file. He clicked play. Victoria's face filled the screen. Beautiful, sad, determined. She was sitting in this very bedroom, recording herself. "If you're watching this," Victoria said, "I'm probably dead. And Dominic probably killed me." Eli made a small, choked sound. Amara pulled him close. "I've discovered my husband is a criminal," Victoria continued. "But I've also discovered something worse. The merger he's planning, with Hexagon Corporation, isn't a business deal. It's a cover for human trafficking." Amara's blood turned to ice. "Hexagon is a front," Victoria said, her voice shaking. "They move people, women and children across international borders. They use Kingsley Industries shipping routes to do it. And Dominic knows. He's been facilitating it for years in exchange for a percentage of their profits." Julian's face had gone white. "I have proof," Victoria said. "Documents. Testimonies. Everything needed to bring down both companies. I'm going to take it to the FBI. But if something happens to me first, if Dominic finds out what I know..." She looked directly into the camera. "Eli, my sweet boy. If you're watching this, know that I loved you more than anything. And I died trying to make the world safer for you. Take this evidence to the authorities. Make them listen. And know that your mother was brave enough to fight monsters." Tears streamed down Victoria's face. "Julian," she continued, "if you're there, and I know you will be, because you always keep your promises, protect my son. Don't let Dominic turn him into something cruel and broken. And don't let my death be meaningless. Use this. Destroy him." The video ended. The car was silent except for Eli's quiet sobbing. "Human trafficking," Amara whispered. "He's not just a murderer. He's a monster," Julian finished, his voice hollow. "And the merger happens in 2 weeks. Which means 2 weeks from now, he'll have complete control of the trafficking routes. He'll be untouchable. Not if we take this to the FBI. We can't." Julian's expression was anguished. Victoria was going to. That's why he killed her. The moment we involve law enforcement, Dominic will know. He has connections everywhere, police, prosecutors, judges. He'll destroy the evidence and make us disappear before we can testify. Then what do we do? Julian stared at the screen. "We need to make this public. Undeniably public. So many people seeing it that Dominic can't suppress it. The press? Bigger. We leak it everywhere simultaneously. News outlets, social media, law enforcement, at every level. Make it impossible to contain." Julian's hands clenched. "But we need time to coordinate. To make copies. To get Eli somewhere safe before it all explodes." "How much time?" "A week. Maybe less." Amara looked at Eli, who was staring at his mother's face frozen on the laptop screen. "We have to move fast," she said. "Dominic's already suspicious. And now that I'm living in the house, he'll be watching you constantly," Julian agreed. "Which means we need to be smarter. Careful. We can't afford a single mistake." "What about Mrs. Winter's daughter? If Dominic cuts off her treatment?" "I'll handle it. I have some money saved. It'll cover a few months." Julian met her gaze. "Victoria left me a trust for situations like this. For protecting people Dominic tries to hurt. She knew." Amara realized. "She knew you'd fight for her even after she was gone." "She was my best friend," Julian said, his voice breaking. "And I let her down. I won't let her down again." Amara reached for his hand. Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment, they just held onto each other. Two people fighting an impossible battle against a man with unlimited resources and no conscience. Eli climbed into Amara's lap, and she wrapped her arms around him. "We're going to win," she whispered fiercely. "Your mother didn't die for nothing. We're going to make sure everyone knows what she discovered, what she was brave enough to fight against." Eli looked up at her, his dark eyes swimming with tears. And then he did something miraculous. His mouth opened, his throat worked, and a single word emerged, hoarse and broken but unmistakable.
Manga.
His first word in 3 months. Amara's tears spilled over. "Yes, baby. Your mama. She loved you so much." Julian's expression cracked. He reached over, gently touching Eli's hair. "She'd be so proud of you." Eli's next word was even clearer. "Help." "We're going to help," Amara promised. "We're going to stop the bad people. We're going to make things right." Eli nodded, then curled against Amara's chest, exhausted from the effort of speaking. Julian met Amara's gaze over Eli's head. "We have one chance at this," he said quietly. "One shot to bring Dominic down before he realizes what we have. And if we fail—" "We won't," Amara interrupted. "We can't. He'll kill us. All of us." "I know." Amara's jaw set with determination. But Victoria faced him anyway. She stood up to a monster knowing it might cost her everything. "We owe it to her, and to Eli, to be just as brave." Julian stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned forward and kissed her. It was different from the desperate kiss in the hallway. This was deeper, full of promise and fear, and something fierce that felt dangerously close to love. When they broke apart, Julian rested his forehead against hers. "When this is over," he whispered, "when Eli's safe and Dominic's behind bars, I'm taking you to dinner. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere far from this nightmare." "Is that a promise?" "It's a vow." Amara smiled despite everything. "Then we'd better survive." "Together," Julian said. "Together." They sat there for another moment, 3 people bound by tragedy and hope, planning to take down an empire. Then Julian's phone buzzed with an alert. His face went white. "What?" Amara demanded. "Dominic's on his way home. Early. He just left his downtown office." "How long do we have?" 20 minutes. Maybe less." Julian ejected the flash drive, handing it to Amara. "Hide this. Somewhere he'd never think to look. And get Eli back to his room. Act normal. Like nothing happened." They scrambled out of the car, Julian re-looping the security footage to erase their presence in the garage. Amara and Eli raced back through the mansion, replacing the jewelry box in Victoria's closet, locking the bedroom behind them, returning to Eli's room just as the front door opened downstairs. Dominic's voice echoed through the house. "Miss Blake, where's my son?" Amara took a deep breath, smoothing Eli's hair. "Remember," she whispered, "we were in your room all afternoon. Reading books.
Drawing.
Nothing else." "Okay." Eli nodded, his expression determined. They walked out to meet Dominic at the top of the stairs. He stood in the foyer, still in his suit, his cold blue eyes tracking their every movement. "There you are," he said. "Did you have a good day?" "Very good," Amara replied, keeping her voice steady. "Eli's been working on his reading." "Has he?" Dominic's gaze shifted to his son. "And did you speak today, Eli? Did you use your words like a normal boy?" Eli stared at his father silently. But Amara saw the flash of defiance in his eyes. The strength his mother had given him through that video. The knowledge that he wasn't alone anymore. "Still playing mute," Dominic said with disgust.
"Well,
"We'll see how long that lasts." He turned away, heading toward his study. Amara released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. They'd made it. They had the evidence. They had a plan. But as she watched Dominic disappear into his study, she couldn't shake the feeling that he knew something. That they'd missed something. That the monster was 3 steps ahead of them and just waiting to strike. That night, after Eli was asleep, Amara sat in her room staring at the flash drive. She'd hidden it inside a stuffed bear in Eli's room, somewhere Dominic would never think to look. But having the evidence wasn't enough. They needed to use it, and they were running out of time. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tomorrow night, midnight, Gardens. Come alone. We need to finalize the plan.
J.
Amara deleted the text immediately, knowing the phone was probably monitored. Tomorrow night, everything would be set in motion. Tomorrow night, they'd begin the endgame. But first, they had to survive another day under Dominic Kingsley's watchful eyes. Amara looked at the camera in the corner of her room. She smiled sweetly at it. Then she turned off the light and went to bed, her heart hammering with fear and determination. The game was on, and this time they were playing to win. Everything just changed. Victoria's evidence reveals something so much darker than we imagined. But can Amara and Julian expose Dominic before he discovers what they know? What do you think happens next? Drop your predictions in the comments. I love reading your theories. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button now. The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Amara went through the motions: breakfast with Eli and Dominic, lessons in the library, lunch in the garden. Every moment felt like walking through a minefield blindfolded. Every interaction with Dominic was a test she wasn't sure she was passing. He watched her constantly. Not overtly, not obviously, but she felt his gaze like ice water down her spine. At dinner, he asked questions that seemed casual but weren't. How long did you work in your previous position, Ms. Blake? 2 years, sir. And before that? Different households. I move around quite a bit. Running from something? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Or toward something? Amara's pulse jumped. Just prefer new experiences. Dominic cut his steak with surgical precision. And what brought you to my household specifically? The agency recommended it. Said you needed someone patient. Someone good with traumatized children. Did they? Dominic took a sip of wine. And are you good with traumatized children? Amara glanced at Eli, who was pushing food around his plate. I think Eli and I understand each other.
Yes.
You seem quite attached. Dominic's gaze sharpened. Tell me, Ms. Blake, in your professional opinion, why hasn't my son spoken yet? It was a trap. Amara could feel it. Trauma affects everyone differently, she said carefully. Some children need time. Or some children are hiding something, Dominic interrupted. Protecting a secret, perhaps. Afraid of what might happen if they tell the truth. The room fell silent. Eli's fork clattered against his plate. Is that what you think? Amara asked, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. That Eli's afraid to tell the truth about something? Dominic smiled. I think my son saw something the night his mother died. Something that frightened him into silence. The question is, what was it? He was fishing. Testing. Trying to determine how much Eli had revealed. Perhaps he saw his mother fall, Amara said. That would be traumatic enough for any child. Perhaps. Dominic's eyes never left hers. Or perhaps he saw something else. Something that contradicts the official story. And perhaps someone has been encouraging him to keep that secret. I would never. Wouldn't you? Dominic leaned forward. You've been spending quite a lot of time with my son. More than necessary for a simple caretaker. Taking him into closed rooms. Having private conversations. One might think you're trying to turn him against his own father. That's not true. Then what is true, Ms. Blake? Dominic's voice turned to steel. What have you and Eli been discussing? What has he shown you? Eli's hand found Amara's under the table, trembling. We discuss books, Amara said firmly. And his mother. He misses her. That's natural. Natural, Dominic repeated.
Yes.
Just like it's natural for Julian to suddenly take such an interest in household security. Installing backdoors in the camera system. Accessing files he shouldn't have access to. Amara's blood ran cold. He knew. He knew about Julian's monitoring. I'm sure Mr. Corleone was just being thorough, she started. I'm sure Mr. Corleone has been conspiring with my staff to undermine me, Dominic interrupted. And I'm sure you're part of it. He stood, throwing his napkin on the table. Eli, go to your room. Eli didn't move. Now, Dominic commanded. Eli looked at Amara, his eyes wide with fear. It's okay, Amara whispered, though her heart was racing. I'll be right there. Eli slipped out of his chair and ran from the room. The moment he was gone, Dominic's mask dropped completely. I know what you are, he said quietly, dangerously. A woman with a fake identity. A criminal past. Someone who thinks she can come into my home and disrupt my life. I'm just trying to help a traumatized child. You're trying to turn my son against me. Just like Victoria tried to turn him against me. Just like she poisoned him with her lies and her weakness. Dominic's hands clenched into fists. She tried to destroy me. Tried to take everything I built. And now you and Julian think you can finish what she started. I don't know what you're talking about, don't you? Dominic pulled out his phone, pressing play on a video. Amara's stomach dropped. It was security footage from the garage. From yesterday. Of her, Julian, and Eli in Julian's car. But the angle was wrong. It should have been looped, erased. You thought Julian controlled all the cameras, Dominic said with a cold smile. But I have a secondary system. One he doesn't know about. And it's been recording everything. The video showed them clearly. The laptop, the flash drive, Victoria's face on the screen. You found her evidence, Dominic said. The files she thought she'd hidden so cleverly. The lies and manipulations she compiled to try to destroy me. They're not lies, Amara said, her fear turning to anger. You're embezzling, laundering money, facilitating human trafficking. Dominic moved so fast she didn't see it coming. His hand closed around her throat, slamming her against the wall. You know nothing, he hissed, his face inches from hers. Victoria knew nothing. She saw transactions she didn't understand and created a conspiracy in her paranoid mind. She saw the truth. Amara choked out. She saw what she wanted to see, and she died because she couldn't leave well enough alone. Dominic's grip tightened. Just like you're going to die if you don't give me that flash drive. Now. Amara clawed at his hand, unable to breathe. Where is it? Dominic demanded. Black spots danced in Amara's vision. Then suddenly, the pressure released. Amara collapsed, gasping for air. Dominic stepped back, straightening his tie as if nothing had happened. You have until midnight to produce that flash drive. If you don't, I'll assume you've already given it to the authorities. And I'll have no choice but to activate my contingency plan. What plan? Amara rasped. Dominic smiled. The one where my mentally unstable nanny, a woman with a fabricated identity and a history of violence, has a psychotic break and tries to harm my son. I'm forced to defend him. Tragically, the nanny doesn't survive the encounter. Horror washed through Amara. You'd kill me and blame it on self-defense. I'd kill you and be praised for protecting my child, Dominic corrected. The security footage will show you acting erratically.
Threatening Ellie.
I'll be a grieving father who had no choice. Julian knows the truth. Julian will be disbarred and arrested for ethics violations by tomorrow morning. I've already filed the complaints. Already provided evidence of his misconduct. He won't be able to help you. Dominic checked his watch. You have 6 hours, Ms. Blake. Flash drive by midnight, or you and Eli both suffer the consequences. You'd hurt your own son? I'd do whatever's necessary to protect my empire. Dominic's expression was utterly cold, utterly ruthless. Eli is a liability right now. A loose end. If he could be useful, if he could speak and confirm the official story of his mother's accident, I'd keep him. But if he's going to remain silent, remain a threat. He shrugged. Tragic accidents happen, even to 7-year-old boys. Amara's blood turned to ice. You're a monster. I'm a businessman. There's a difference. Dominic headed for the door. Midnight, Ms. Blake. Don't be late. Amara ran to Eli's room the moment Dominic left. Eli was huddled on his bed, tears streaming down his face. He'd heard everything through the walls. It's okay, Amara said, pulling him into her arms even as she shook with terror. I won't let him hurt you. I promise. But how could she keep that promise? Dominic controlled everything, the house, the security, the staff. He had evidence that could destroy Julian. He had the power to make Amara disappear and make it look justified. And he'd kill Eli if it protected his secrets. Amara pulled out her phone with shaking hands, texting Julian, "Emergency. He knows everything. We're in danger." The response came immediately. "Don't go to the meeting tonight. Stay in your room. Lock the door. I'm calling the police. He'll destroy the evidence before they arrive," Amara typed back. "And he has backup footage of us. He'll claim we're lying. Then run. Take Eli and run. I'll create a distraction." Amara looked at Eli's tear-stained face, looked at the cameras watching them from the corners, looked at the windows that didn't open, the door that locked from the outside. They were trapped.
Can't run.
He's locked us in. Cameras everywhere. He wants the flash drive by midnight, or he kills us both. A long pause. Then, give it to him.
What?
It's a copy. I made backups yesterday and sent them to 3 different journalists. If we die, they'll publish everything. But right now, we need you and Eli alive. Hope flickered in Amara's chest. You made copies? Of course I made copies. I'm not an idiot. Then, where are you now? Eli's room.
Stay there.
Barricade the door. I'm coming to get you out. Dominic said you're being arrested tomorrow. I know. I got the notification an hour ago. Ethics violation complaint. Fabricated evidence. It won't stick, but it'll tie me up long enough for him to move against you. A pause. I'm so sorry, Amara. I should have been more careful. I should have protected you better. Amara's eyes burned with tears. This isn't your fault. Yes, it is. I got you into this. I convinced you to help. I chose to help. I chose to stay. I chose to fight for Eli. Amara looked at the boy in her arms. And I'd choose it again. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the stupidest. Both, probably. Then I love you. I know it's too soon and completely inappropriate and terrible timing, but I need you to know. In case something happens. Amara's breath caught. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to survive this. And then you're taking me to that dinner you promised.
Deal.
I love you too. Now come get us. Amara put down the phone and looked at Eli. Julian's coming, she whispered. He's going to get us out of here. But we need to be ready to move fast. Okay. Eli nodded, wiping his tears. And I need you to do something really brave for me. Amara retrieved the flash drive from inside the stuffed bear. I need you to hide this. Somewhere no one would ever think to look. Not your father.
Not me. Not anyone. Can you do that?
Eli took the flash drive, his expression determined. He climbed off the bed and disappeared into his closet. Amara heard scraping sounds. Movement. When Eli emerged 5 minutes later, the flash drive was gone. Where did you put it? Amara asked. Eli shook his head. Then he pointed to himself and made a locking gesture over his mouth. His secret. His insurance. Smart boy, Amara breathed. Your mother would be so proud. Eli's eyes filled with tears again. And then he spoke, 2 words rough and broken. Miss her. Amara pulled him close. I know, baby. I know. They sat together on the bed, waiting for Julian, while the cameras watched and the clock ticked toward midnight. Toward whatever terrible confrontation was coming. At 11:30 p.m., the power went out. The camera's red lights died. The hallway lights flickered off. The entire mansion plunged into darkness. Julian, Amara breathed. She grabbed Eli's hand and moved to the door, trying the handle. Still locked from the outside. Then she heard footsteps in the corridor. Running footsteps. Amara, Julian's voice, urgent and scared. Step back from the door. Amara pulled Eli into the corner just as something heavy slammed into the door.
Once. Twice.
3 times. The door burst open. Julian stood there with a fire extinguisher in his hands and wild desperation in his eyes. We have to go.
Now.
Dominic's calling security. They'll be here in minutes. The flash drive. Doesn't matter. I told you I have copies. We just need to get you both out alive.
They ran.
Through dark corridors, down back staircases, past rooms where staff were emerging with flashlights and confused expressions. "Mr. Corleone," someone called. "What's happening?" "Electrical fire," Julian shouted back. "Evacuate the building." It was brilliant. In the chaos, no one would question them leaving. No one would stop them. They burst through the kitchen door into the gardens. Julian's car was waiting, engine running. "Get in," he commanded. Amara and Eli dove into the back seat. Julian jumped behind the wheel. The car roared to life, tires squealing as they raced down the long driveway toward the gates. The gates that were already closing. "Hold on." Julian gunned the engine. They shot through the narrowing gap with inches to spare, metal scraping against metal. Then they were on the open road, the Kingsley mansion shrinking behind them. Amara looked back, seeing lights blazing back to life in the house, seeing figures running out into the gardens. They'd escaped. They were free. They were. Blue and red lights exploded behind them. Police sirens wailed.
No, Julian, breathe. No, no, no.
He called them. Amara realized. He told them we kidnapped Eli. "I know." Julian's jaw clenched.
Hold on.
"I'm not stopping." "Julian, you can't run from the police. I'm not letting him take you back there." Julian's voice cracked with desperation. "He'll kill you. He'll kill both of you." "I won't. I can't." The police car was gaining. More sirens joined the first. 3 cars now. 4. "Julian, please," Amara begged. "If you run, they'll shoot. They'll hurt Eli." Julian's hands trembled on the wheel. Eli was crying in the back seat, silent sobs shaking his small body. "Damn it." Julian slammed his hand against the steering wheel. "Damn it, damn it, damn it." He pulled over. The police cars surrounded them immediately, officers emerging with weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them." "Don't shoot," Julian shouted. "There's a child in the car." Amara held Eli tight as officers yanked open the doors, pulling Julian out roughly. "Julian Corleone, you're under arrest for kidnapping, child endangerment, and ethics violations." "I'm protecting them." Julian struggled against the officers restraining him. "Dominic Kingsley is trying to kill them. Please, you have to listen." "Save it for the judge," an officer said coldly, cuffing him. Another officer pulled open Amara's door. "Ma'am, we need you to step out of the vehicle." "Please," Amara whispered, clutching Eli. "Please, his father is dangerous. He's going to hurt this boy." Mr. Kingsley reported that his son was kidnapped by his nanny and his attorney, that you've been acting erratically, that you made threats against the child. "That's a lie. Ma'am, step out of the vehicle now, or we'll remove you by force." Amara met Eli's terrified eyes. She had no choice. She stepped out, Eli still clinging to her. A black car pulled up, Dominic's town car. Dominic emerged, his expression perfectly crafted. Worried father, relieved to have his son back. "Thank God," he said, rushing forward. "Eli, are you hurt?" Eli pressed himself against Amara, hiding his face. "It's all right, son," Dominic said gently, for the officer's benefit. "You're safe now. These people can't hurt you anymore." "We weren't hurting him," Amara cried. "We were protecting him from you." Dominic's expression turned sorrowful. "Ms. Blake has been struggling with paranoid delusions. I should have terminated her employment sooner, but I felt compassion for her situation. That was clearly a mistake." "You're a liar," Amara shouted. "You killed your wife. You're embezzling millions. You're facilitating human trafficking." The officers exchanged glances, the kind of glances that said they thought she was insane. "You see," Dominic said sadly. "Completely delusional. I have psychiatric evaluations in her employment file documenting her instability." Fabricated evaluations, Amara knew. More evidence Dominic had manufactured. "Sir, we'll need to take your son to the hospital for evaluation," an officer said. "Standard procedure in kidnapping cases." "Of course," Dominic agreed. "Whatever's best for Eli."
No.
Amara struggled as an officer tried to pull Eli from her arms. "Please don't give him back. Please." Eli was crying now, his small hands fisted in Amara's shirt, holding on with everything he had. "Eli, let go. Dominic said, his voice hardening just slightly. Come with Daddy. Eli shook his head violently.
Ellie. No.
The word rang out, clear and unmistakable. Eli's first full word to his father in 3 months. And it was a rejection. Dominic's mask slipped for just a second, fury flashing across his features before he controlled it. He's been traumatized by these criminals, Dominic said smoothly. He doesn't understand what's happening. I understand, Eli shouted, his voice hoarse but strong. You pushed Mommy. I saw you. You killed her. The officers froze. Dominic's expression went utterly blank. Eli, he said quietly, dangerously. You don't know what you're saying. I saw you. Eli screamed, tears streaming down his face. The gloves. The ring. You pushed her, and she fell, and she died, and you told Mrs. Winters to say it was an accident, but it wasn't. You killed her. Silence fell over the scene. The child is clearly disturbed, Dominic said, his voice tight. Repeating lies these criminals have fed him. We didn't tell him anything, Amara said. He saw it himself. He witnessed his mother's murder. That's why he stopped speaking. That's why he's terrified of you. This is absurd. Then let them investigate, Julian said from where officers held him. If you have nothing to hide, let them search your house. Check the security footage. Interview the staff. Dominic's eyes narrowed. The footage from that night shows Victoria falling. Alone. It was an accident. The footage you edited, Julian shot back. But there are other cameras, other angles. And Victoria left evidence. Proof of your crimes. It's been sent to journalists, law enforcement, federal agencies. It'll go public whether you kill us or not.
A lie.
The flash drive was still hidden somewhere in Eli's room. But Dominic didn't know that. Dominic's composure cracked. You're bluffing. Am I? Julian smiled grimly. By tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the country will have files proving you've been embezzling millions and facilitating human trafficking through Kingsley Industries. Your merger will collapse. Your empire will crumble. And you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Unless you kill us right now, Amara added. In front of all these witnesses. Is that your plan? Dominic stared at them, his mind clearly racing, calculating odds, searching for a way out. Then his phone rang. He answered it, his face going pale as he listened. I see, he said quietly.
Yes.
I understand. He hung up. That was my head of security, Dominic said, his voice hollow. Federal agents just arrived at my home with a search warrant for evidence of financial crimes and human trafficking. Julian's gamble had worked. He'd sent the evidence after all. Or someone had.
Or
Victoria's attorney, Dominic breathed, understanding dawning in his eyes. She gave her files to her attorney before she died, with instructions to send them to the FBI if anything happened to her. She was smarter than you, Amara said. She knew you'd try to kill her. She made sure you'd pay for it even from the grave. Dominic's expression transformed into something ugly and desperate. He lunged. Not at Amara. Not at Julian.
At Eli.
His hands closed around his son's arm, yanking him away from Amara. If I'm going down, Dominic hissed, I'm taking everyone with me. Eli did something no one expected. He bit down on his father's hand, hard enough to draw blood. Dominic yelped, his grip loosening. And Eli ran, not toward Amara or Julian, but toward the police officers. Help, he screamed. He killed my mommy. He's going to kill me. Please help. The officers moved instantly, stepping between Eli and Dominic. Sir, step back. One commanded. That's my son.
Step back. Now.
Dominic stared at the wall of officers protecting Eli from him. At Julian, who was smiling despite his handcuffs. At Amara, who had tears streaming down her face, but defiance blazing in her eyes. His empire was collapsing. His crimes were being exposed. His own son had condemned him, and there was nowhere left to run. Dominic Kingsley, an officer said, pulling out handcuffs. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice. We'll be adding additional charges pending the federal investigation. As they cuffed him, Dominic's eyes locked onto Amara. You've destroyed everything, he said quietly. I hope you're proud. I am, Amara said. Victoria would be too. They led him away. And for the first time in 3 months, Eli Kingsley smiled. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. At the police station, Amara and Julian were separated. Questioned for hours. Accused of conspiracy, of manipulating a child, of fabricating evidence against a powerful man. Dominic's lawyers descended like vultures, arguing that the federal warrant was baseless, that Victoria's evidence was falsified, that Amara and Julian had staged everything to extort money from the Kingsley family. And without the actual flash drive, still hidden in Eli's room, they couldn't prove anything. Where's the evidence? The detective demanded for the 5th time. If you really have proof, produce it. It's in Eli's room, Amara said. He hid it. Ask him where. But Eli, traumatized and exhausted, had retreated back into silence. The social worker assigned to his case couldn't get him to speak. Couldn't get him to reveal where he'd hidden the flash drive. This is convenient, Dominic's lawyer said smoothly. The supposed evidence exists, but can't be found. Meanwhile, my client has been falsely arrested based on the delusions of a mentally unstable employee and an attorney with a vendetta. Victoria's attorney has the original files, Julian insisted. Contact Ellen Zhang at Morrison and Associates. She'll have everything. The detective made the call. But when he hung up, his expression was grim. Ellen Zhang died 6 months ago.
Car accident.
Julian's face went white.
No.
That's Dominic killed her. He killed Victoria's attorney to keep the evidence buried. You have proof of that? It's all on the flash drive, which you can't produce. The detective leaned back. Here's what I see. A nanny and an attorney who conspired to kidnap a child and make false accusations against his father. That's a felony. Multiple felonies. We were protecting him, Amara cried. From what? A father who's worried sick about his traumatized son? A father who's cooperating fully with a federal investigation and whose preliminary financials show no evidence of wrongdoing. Because he's had time to hide it, Julian shouted. He's had months to move money, destroy records, eliminate witnesses. That's quite a conspiracy theory, Mr. Corleone. I'm sure it'll hold up great in court. The detective stood. You're both being charged with kidnapping and child endangerment. Bail hearing is tomorrow morning. They were led away. Amara caught one last glimpse of Eli through a window, small and scared, wrapped in a blanket, being led toward a room with his father's lawyers, being fed back to the monster. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. Amara spent the night in a holding cell, staring at concrete walls and replaying every mistake. She should have been smarter.
Faster.
Should have gotten Eli out sooner. Should have found a way to protect him from being dragged back into Dominic's control. Now she was facing years in prison. Julian was facing disbarment, and worse. And Eli was alone with a murderer who'd already proven he'd kill to protect his secrets. The flash drive was still hidden. Victoria's evidence, the proof that could bring down an empire, was somewhere in that mansion. But without Eli to reveal its location, it might as well not exist. At dawn, a guard unlocked her cell. You made bail, he said gruffly. Amara blinked.
What?
I haven't even had a hearing. Someone posted it. You're free to go. Confused and exhausted, Amara was processed out. In the station lobby, she found the last person she expected. Bernard, the Kingsley family cook, stood with a worn checkbook in his hands and determination in his weathered face. Mr. Bernard? Amara breathed. Ms. Blake. He nodded toward the exit. We should talk. Somewhere private. They walked to a small diner 3 blocks away. Bernard didn't speak until they were seated in a back booth with coffee neither of them touched. I've worked for the Kingsley family for 23 years, Bernard said quietly. I watched Dominic grow from an ambitious young man into what he is now. I watched Victoria try to save him, try to make him better. And I watched him destroy her. You knew, Amara realized. You knew he killed her. I suspected. But suspicion isn't proof. Bernard's hands shook as he wrapped them around his coffee cup. The night Victoria died, I was in the kitchen.
Late.
I couldn't sleep. I heard arguing on the third floor, Dominic and Victoria screaming at each other. Then I heard. His voice broke. I heard her scream. And then silence. Why didn't you go to the police? Because I'm a 60-year-old black man accusing a billionaire white man of murder with nothing but my word. Bernard met her gaze.
They wouldn't have believed me then. They wouldn't believe me now.
Not without evidence. The flash drive is hidden in Master Eli's room. I know. Bernard pulled out his phone, showing her a photo. I found this morning when I went to check on the boy. It was a drawing, one of Eli's drawings, showing a stuffed bear with an X on its stomach and an arrow pointing to a loose floorboard beneath the window. He left me a map, Bernard said. In case something happened to you and Mr. Corleone. The boy is smarter than his father gives him credit for. Hope surged in Amara's chest. Can you get it? Can you retrieve the flash drive? Already done. Bernard reached into his jacket and pulled out the small device. I palmed it this morning while making breakfast. Mr. Kingsley's security was too busy coordinating with his lawyers to notice an old cook moving through the house. Amara wanted to cry with relief. Bernard, you're a miracle. I'm a man who failed Victoria once. I won't fail her son. Bernard slid the flash drive across the table. But here's the problem. Mr. Kingsley's lawyers have already started discrediting this evidence. They're claiming anything on this drive was fabricated by you and Mr. Corleone as part of your extortion scheme. But Victoria created these files before we ever entered the picture. Can you prove that? Can you prove when these files were created, who created them, that they haven't been altered? Bernard shook his head. Mr. Kingsley's legal team is the best money can buy. They'll tear this apart in court. Amara's hope faltered. Then what do? We find someone who can authenticate it. Someone whose testimony can't be dismissed. Bernard leaned forward. Victoria told me once that she'd sent backup copies to a friend. Someone outside Dominic's sphere of influence. Someone he couldn't threaten or buy off. Who? Her college roommate. A woman named Hallie Smith. She's a federal prosecutor in New York. Smith. Amara's mind raced. Dr. Smith, the child psychologist who is treating Eli. Her sister, Bernard confirmed. Victoria asked Dr. Smith to keep an eye on Eli after she died, to make sure he was okay. The sisters have been working together, waiting for the right moment to move against Dominic. They've been investigating him this whole time, gathering evidence, building a case. They needed someone inside the house to corroborate Victoria's files. Someone who could testify to what really happened. Bernard's expression turned grave. They were hoping Mrs. Winters would break. But when she didn't, when she disappeared... Wait, disappeared? Amara interrupted. She was fired, but... She's missing, Ms. Blake. As of yesterday. Her daughter called the police when she didn't show up for their scheduled visit. Bernard's voice dropped. I suspect Mr. Kingsley decided she was too much of a liability. Ice flooded Amara's veins. He killed her. Or arranged for her to disappear. Same result. Bernard stood. Which is why we need to move fast. Before he decides you and Mr. Corleone and Master Eli are liabilities too. Where's Eli now? At the mansion. With his father. Social services ruled him safe to return home pending investigation. Bernard's jaw tightened. But I heard Mr. Kingsley on the phone this morning. He's planning to send the boy to a private facility in Switzerland for treatment of his trauma-induced delusions. He's going to hide him, Amara realized. Get him out of the country, where we can't reach him. He's scheduled to fly out tonight. 8 p.m. Private jet from Teterboro. Amara checked her watch.
7 Uhr morgens.
13 hours. Where's Julian? She asked urgently. Still in lockup. His bail hearing isn't until this afternoon. Bernard pulled out a burner phone. But I can get a message to him. What do you need? I need him to contact Hallie Smith. Get her to verify Victoria's evidence. And I need to get to Eli before Dominic puts him on that plane. You're still wanted for kidnapping. The moment you set foot near that mansion. I know. Amara's mind raced, forming a desperate plan. That's why I'm not going to sneak in. I'm going to walk right through the front door. Bernard stared at her. That's suicide. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way to force Dominic to show his hand. Amara met his gaze.
He thinks he's won.
Thinks he's untouchable. But he's made mistakes. Left evidence. Killed people. And he's arrogant enough to believe no one will ever hold him accountable. What are you planning? Amara smiled grimly. I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. A confession. On camera. With witnesses. In a way he can't deny or suppress. Ms. Blake. Do you trust me, Bernard? The old cook studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Victoria trusted you. That's enough for me. Then here's what we're going to do. At 2 p.m., Julian was released on bail. He found Amara waiting outside the courthouse with Bernard, a laptop, and a plan that made his lawyer instinct scream in protest. Absolutely not, Julian said flatly after she'd explained. You're talking about confronting a murder without backup, without protection. With cameras rolling and federal prosecutors watching, Amara corrected. Hallie Smith is standing by. The moment we have Dominic on tape admitting to Victoria's murder, she'll move in with federal agents. And if he kills you before he admits anything? He won't. He's too arrogant. Too convinced he's smarter than everyone. Amara grabbed Julian's hands. This is our shot. Our only shot. Tonight he puts Eli on a plane, and we lose him. We lose our witness. We lose everything. Julian's jaw clenched. I can't lose you. You won't. Amara stood on her toes, kissing him fiercely. Because we're going to win. We're going to save Eli. We're going to destroy Dominic. And then you're taking me to that dinner. You're insane. Julian breathed against her lips. Probably. Is that a problem? Not even a little bit. Julian pulled back, his dark eyes burning with determination. Okay, we do this. But we do it smart. We bring backup. We make sure there's no way Dominic can silence you. Already arranged, Bernard said, pulling up a video feed on the laptop. The house is wired. Every room, every camera feeding to a secure server that Dr. Smith's team controls. Whatever happens, it'll be recorded. Julian studied the feed, his legal mind analyzing every angle. We need probable cause to get agents into the house. Without a warrant. I can get you one, a woman's voice said. They turned to find Dr. Smith standing behind them, but dressed differently than before. Professional suit. Federal badge clipped to her belt. Dr. Smith. Amara said, confused. Special Prosecutor Hallie Smith. The woman corrected with a slight smile. My sister Emily has been consulting for me on the Kingsley case. Playing the role of child psychologist to get close to Eli. To assess whether he'd be a viable witness. You've been investigating this whole time, Julian breathed. Victoria came to me 2 years ago with evidence of Dominic's financial crimes. We've been building a RICO case ever since. But we needed proof of the trafficking connection. Proof of murder. Hallie's expression hardened. Victoria's death accelerated our timeline. Ellen Zhang's death confirmed we were dealing with someone willing to kill to protect his empire. You knew Ellen was murdered? We suspected. Her car accident was too convenient. But we couldn't prove it. Hallie opened her briefcase, pulling out files. Now we can. Your flash drive contains emails between Dominic and his head of security arranging Ellen's accident. Along with Victoria's murder. Along with plans to eliminate Mrs. Winters. Is she alive? Amara asked urgently. Barely. She's in protective custody. Dominic's people tried to stage her suicide last night. We got to her first. Hallie's eyes glinted with cold fury. She's agreed to testify in exchange for her daughter's continued treatment and immunity from accessory charges. Hope blazed through Amara. So you have everything. You can arrest him now. We can arrest him for financial crimes. Maybe get him on conspiracy charges. But murder? Hallie shook her head. That's harder to prove. We need a confession. Or we need Eli's testimony. Eli's 7. And traumatized. A good defense attorney will shred his credibility. Unless we have corroborating evidence. Video footage. Voice recordings. A confession obtained legally with proper witnesses. Hallie looked at Amara. Which is where you come in. You want me to get him to confess. I want you to make him so angry, so arrogant, so convinced he's beaten you that he gloats. That he admits what he's done. Hallie's expression turned grave. It's dangerous. If he realizes you're wired, if he suspects we're listening, he'll kill me. I know. Amara squared her shoulders. But if I don't try, Eli gets sent to Switzerland tonight. And we may never see him again. Julian grabbed her arm. There has to be another way. There isn't. Amara met his desperate gaze. You know there isn't. This is our shot. Then I'm going with you. You can't. Dominic will never talk freely if you're there. He sees you as a threat. But me. Amara smiled bitterly. I'm just a cleaner. Just a lowly employee he's already beaten.
He'll want to rub it in.
Want to show me how powerless I am. She's right, Hallie said quietly. Dominic's profile shows extreme narcissism. He needs to feel superior. To demonstrate his dominance. Having Julian there would trigger his defenses. Julian looked like he wanted to argue. To refuse. To find any other solution. Instead he pulled Amara into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Come back to me, he whispered fiercely. Whatever happens in there, you come back to me. Promise. I promise. Amara pulled back, touching his face. I love you. I love you too. Julian kissed her one more time, desperate and deep and full of everything they hadn't had time to say. When they broke apart, Hallie was holding out a wire. Let's get you ready, she said. And let's bring down a monster. At 6 p.m., Amara walked up to the Kingsley mansion's front door and rang the bell. The security guard who answered looked shocked. Ms. Blake? You're not supposed to be here. I know. But I need to speak to Mr. Kingsley. It's about Eli. Amara held up the flash drive, a dummy, identical to the real one Hallie had taken. I have what he wants. I'm ready to make a deal. The guard spoke into his radio. A moment later, Dominic's voice crackled through. Send her to my study. Amara was escorted through the familiar corridors, past the library where she'd first connected with Eli, past the dining room where Dominic had threatened her. The wire taped to her ribs felt impossibly obvious. The tiny camera in her necklace seemed to glow like a beacon. But no one stopped her. She was brought to Dominic's study. He sat behind his massive desk, a glass of scotch in hand, looking utterly in control. Miss Blake, he said smoothly. What a surprise. I thought you'd learned your lesson about trespassing on my property. I came to negotiate. Amara held up the flash drive. You want this. I want Eli safe. Let's make a deal. Dominic's eyes narrowed. You're in no position to negotiate. You're facing felony charges.
Prison time.
Complete destruction of whatever life you've built under your fake identity. And you're facing federal investigation into trafficking and murder. I'd say we're both motivated to find a solution. The federal investigation will find nothing. My finances are clean. My business dealings are legitimate. And Victoria's evidence is the paranoid fantasy of a mentally unstable woman. Dominic stood, walking around the desk. But I'm curious. Why bring me the flash drive now? Why not give it to your prosecutor friends? Because I'm not a hero. I'm a survivor. Amara forced her voice to stay steady. And right now, surviving means making sure I don't spend the next 20 years in prison for trying to protect a kid who isn't mine. So you're willing to betray Julian?
Dovstai Abandonelli.
All to save yourself. Dominic smiled. I knew you weren't the saint everyone seems to think you are.
I'm practical.
You win, Mr. Kingsley. You're too powerful, too connected, too smart. We never stood a chance. Amara held out the flash drive. So here's my offer. You take this. You drop the charges against me. You let me walk away. And I forget everything I saw, everything I heard, everything Eli told me. Dominic studied her, calculating. And Julian? Julian's a lawyer. He'll figure out his own way out. Amara shrugged. I'm not responsible for him.
Cold.
I like it. Dominic took the flash drive, turning it over in his fingers. But I'm curious about something. This evidence Victoria supposedly compiled. Did you actually look at it? Enough to know it would destroy you. Financial records, emails, video confessions from people you've hurt. And yet you're handing it over to me, letting me destroy the only proof of my crimes. Dominic's smile widened. Why would you do that unless this isn't the real flash drive? Amara's heart skipped. It's real. No, it's not. Dominic tossed it on the desk. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know Julian made copies? That federal prosecutors already have everything that was on Victoria's drive. He laughed. I've known for days. And I've been systematically discrediting every piece of evidence. Every witness. Every file. You can't discredit Victoria's own voice. Can't I? She was mentally unstable, grief-stricken over her father's death, paranoid, taking prescription medication that caused delusions. Dominic counted off on his fingers. I have psychiatric records documenting her deterioration. I have emails showing her making wild accusations against multiple people, not just me. I have expert witnesses who will testify that her evidence was fabricated during a psychotic break. No one will believe that. Everyone will believe it. Because I control the narrative. I always have. Dominic moved closer, predatory. Did you really think you could beat me? A cleaner with a fake identity and a bleeding heart. I thought I could save a child from his mother's killer, Amara said, her voice shaking, not with fear, but with rage. Victoria killed herself, Dominic said coldly. She was weak, emotional. She couldn't handle the reality of what it takes to build an empire. So she threw herself from that balcony in a dramatic bid for attention. Sadly, she miscalculated. That's a lie. Eli saw you push her. Eli is 7 years old with documented trauma and selective mutism. No court will take his testimony seriously, especially after I have him psychiatrically evaluated at my facility in Switzerland. Dominic's smile turned cruel. By the time they're done with him, he won't even remember what he thinks he saw. He'll remember that his mother was sad, that she jumped, that Daddy tried to save her. You're going to brainwash him, Amara breathed in horror. I'm going to give him proper treatment. For his own good. Dominic leaned against his desk, utterly confident. Here's what's going to happen, Ms. Blake. You're going to be arrested the moment you leave this property for violating the restraining order I filed this morning. You'll go to prison. Julian will be disbarred. And Eli will forget all of you ever existed. And the trafficking? The women and children you've been moving through your shipping routes? Allegations without proof. Shell companies that can't be traced to me. Witnesses who've been deported or disappeared. Dominic shrugged. Hexagon Corporation will take the fall if it comes to that. They're expendable. I'm not. You've thought of everything, Amara said. I always do. That's why I win. Even murder? Especially murder. Dominic's mask dropped completely. Victoria thought she was so clever, threatening to expose me, to take Eli away, to destroy everything I built. She forced my hand. So yes, I killed her. I wore gloves to avoid fingerprints. I broke the railing earlier that day to make it look like an accident. And when she came out to the balcony that night, drunk and emotional and stupid, I pushed her. Amara's breath caught. He was confessing. Actually confessing. Mrs. Winters saw you, she pressed. Mrs. Winters understood that her daughter's life depended on her silence. Just like Ellen Zhang understood that cooperation meant survival. Dominic's expression turned dark. Unfortunately, Ellen got greedy. Started making copies. Threatening to go to the authorities unless I paid her more. So I had my security team arrange an accident. You had her killed. I had a problem solved. There's a difference. Dominic studied Amara. You're very calm about all this. Almost like you expected me to confess. I'm just trying to understand how someone becomes a monster. I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman who refuses to let anyone, wife, attorney, or bleeding heart cleaner, destroy what I've built. Dominic grabbed her arm suddenly, yanking her close. Now tell me where Julian really is. Tell me what you're really planning. I'm not planning anything. You're wired, Dominic hissed, his hand moving to her collar. You think I can't tell? You think I'm stupid? His fingers found the wire, ripping it from her shirt. Amara's blood turned to ice. Federal prosecutors listening in? Dominic said into the wire. I hope you enjoyed the show. Unfortunately, this recording is inadmissible. I was clearly speaking under duress, being threatened by an unstable woman who broke into my home. He crushed the wire under his heel. Then he pulled a gun from his desk drawer. Now, Dominic said quietly, pointing it at Amara's chest. Let's talk about what's really going to happen here. Amara stared at the gun, her heart hammering. You're going to shoot me in your own study? She said, fighting to keep her voice steady. How will you explain that? Self-defense. You broke in, threatened me, attacked me when I confronted you about kidnapping my son. Dominic's hand was steady on the weapon. My security footage will corroborate everything. Edited, of course, but who's to know? Hallie Smith will know. The federal prosecutors will have nothing but a destroyed wire and my word against a dead woman's. Dominic moved closer. It's over, Ms. Blake. You lost. Just like Victoria lost. Just like everyone who challenges me loses. You're wrong about one thing, Amara said quietly. What's that? I'm not wired. Amara touched her necklace, the small pendant with the hidden camera still recording everything. I'm filmin'. Dominic's eyes widened with fury. He lunged for the necklace, and Amara moved, using every self-defense technique she'd learned in her previous life, when she'd been a teacher protecting herself from an abusive ex-boyfriend, when she'd been a witness who needed to survive. She deflected his gun hand upward. The weapon discharged, the bullet slamming into the ceiling. Plaster rained down as they struggled, Dominic's superior strength against Amara's desperation. You bitch. Dominic slammed her against the desk. The necklace broke, skittering across the floor. They both dove for it. Dominic's hand closed around it first.
No.
Amara screamed. He raised his fist to smash it, and a small voice rang out from the doorway. Stop. Eli stood there in his pajamas, tears streaming down his face, holding a tablet computer.
Ellie, Dominic Breither.
Son, go back to your room. I'm not your son, Eli shouted, his voice breaking but strong. Not anymore. You killed my mommy. You killed her, and you lied, and you said I was crazy, but I'm not. I saw everything. Eli, you don't understand. I understand. Eli held up the tablet, showing a live video feed. Everyone understands. They're all watching. Dominic's face went white. What did you do? Bernard helped me set up a stream, Eli said, his small voice growing stronger. To the news. To the police. To everyone. They heard everything you said. They saw you try to hurt Amara. They know the truth now. On the tablet screen, Amara could see the video feed, this very room, from multiple angles. The house cameras Bernard had activated, broadcasting live to the internet, to news stations, to law enforcement. Dominic's confession hadn't just been recorded. It had been live-streamed to thousands of people. You little. Dominic started toward Eli, gun still in hand. Amara threw herself at him, grabbing his arm. The gun went off again. Pain exploded in Amara's shoulder as the bullet grazed her, but she didn't let go. She couldn't let go. Not while Dominic was between her and Eli. Run, she screamed at the boy. Eli, run. But Eli didn't run. Instead, he did something extraordinary. He pressed a button on the tablet. Every door in the house slammed open simultaneously, electronic locks Bernard had rigged to override on Eli's command. And through those doors poured federal agents. FBI. Hands where I can see them. Drop the weapon. Get down on the ground. Dominic spun, gun raised, his face twisted with rage and desperation. For a moment, Amara thought he would shoot, would go down fighting rather than face justice. But then Julian burst through another door, tackling Dominic from the side. They crashed to the ground, the gun spinning away across the hardwood floor. Federal agents swarmed them, pulling Julian off, pinning Dominic face down, cuffing his hands behind his back. Dominic Kingsley, you're under arrest for murder, attempted murder, human trafficking, money laundering, and obstruction of justice, Hallie Smith said, striding into the room with her badge held high. You have the right to remain silent. But Dominic wasn't silent. You can't do this, he screamed, struggling against the agents.
I'm Dominic Kingsley.
I own half the state. I'll destroy all of you. You're a murderer, Hallie said coldly. And thanks to that live stream, about 50 million people just watched you confess and attempt to kill Ms. Blake. You're done. As they hauled Dominic to his feet, he locked eyes with Eli one last time. You betrayed your own father, he hissed. You betrayed my mother, Eli said, his voice steady and clear and brave. And you're not my father anymore. You're just a bad man who's going to jail. Something in Dominic crumbled then. The mask, the control, the illusion of power. All of it shattered. He looked suddenly old, small, defeated. As the agents dragged him away, his screams echoed through the mansion. This isn't over. My lawyers will. I have connections you can't. But his voice faded as they took him outside, where news vans were already gathering, where cameras were flashing, where the empire he built on lies and death was crashing down around him. Amara? Julian was at her side instantly, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You're bleeding.
I'm okay.
Amara winced as the adrenaline faded and pain flared in her shoulder. It's just a graze. You were shot. Julian's voice cracked. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. Amara cupped his face. We won, Julian. We actually won. You won, Julian corrected, his eyes shining with tears. You were so brave. So impossibly brave. We were all brave. Amara looked at Eli, who stood frozen in the doorway, the tablet clutched to his chest. Especially him.
Elias pakade krumbled.
He dropped the tablet and ran to Amara, throwing his arms around her waist. I was so scared, he sobbed. I thought he was going to kill you. But he didn't. Because you saved me. Amara knelt despite the pain, holding him close. You saved all of us, brave boy. Your mother would be so proud.
I miss her, Eli cried.
I miss her so much. I know, sweetheart. Amara rocked him gently. But she's watching. And she knows you were strong enough to tell the truth. Strong enough to stop the bad man. Strong enough to find your voice again. Eli clung to her, his small body shaking with 3 months of grief and fear finally finding release. Julian knelt beside them, his hand gentle on Eli's back. You're safe now. Both of you. I promise. Hallie Smith approached, her expression softening. We need to get Ms. Blake to a hospital for that wound. And Eli will need to be examined. Make a formal statement. Can I stay with Amara? Eli asked, his eyes wide and frightened. Please? I don't want to be alone. You won't be alone, Hallie promised. Ms. Blake can be with you every step of the way. And so can Mr. Corleone, if that's what you want. Eli nodded vigorously, not letting go of Amara. Paramedics arrived, cleaning and bandaging Amara's shoulder wound. It was painful but not serious. The bullet had torn through flesh but missed bone and arteries. You got lucky, the paramedic said. Amara looked at Eli, who sat pressed against her side. At Julian, who held her free hand like he'd never let go. Yeah, she said softly. I really did. The next hours were a blur of statements and examinations and bureaucracy. But through it all, Amara, Julian, and Eli stayed together. In the hospital room where Amara's wound was properly treated, Eli sat on the bed beside her, drawing pictures, but different ones now. Not evidence of trauma. Pictures of hope. A house with a garden. 3 stick figures holding hands. A sun shining overhead. Julian paced, fielding calls from journalists, lawyers, law enforcement. The live stream had gone viral. Dominic's confession had been seen by millions. The evidence was undeniable. The case against him was airtight. Kingsley Industries' board has voted to remove him as CEO, Julian reported, hanging up another call. The merger with Hexagon is cancelled. Federal agents are raiding their offices right now. They're finding evidence of trafficking networks across 12 countries. How many victims? Amara asked quietly. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Julian's expression was grim. But because of what you did, because of Eli's bravery, those networks are being dismantled. Lives are being saved. Victoria saved them. Amara corrected. She started this. We just finished it. She'd be grateful. Julian sat beside her on the bed. And she'd be grateful Eli has you. About that, Hallie Smith said, entering the room with files. We need to discuss Eli's custody situation. Amara's heart clenched. What happens to him now? Legally, Dominic still has parental rights until convicted. But given the evidence, the circumstances, and Eli's testimony, the court has granted emergency custody to the state. Hallie's expression softened. However, Eli needs a temporary guardian. Someone he trusts. Someone who's already demonstrated commitment to his well-being. Are you asking? Amara started. I'm asking if you'd be willing to serve as his foster parent, Hallie said. Temporary until we can arrange long-term placement. Probably with Victoria's sister in California. She's already petitioned for custody. Amara looked at Eli, who was watching her with enormous, hopeful eyes. What do you want, sweetheart? She asked gently. I want to stay with you, Eli whispered. You and Julian. Until I have to go to Aunt Marie's. Please? Then that's what we'll do. Amara pulled him close, looking at Hallie. Whatever paperwork you need, wherever you need us to sign, we'll do it. Us. Hallie's eyebrow rose, looking between Amara and Julian. Us. Julian confirmed, his hand finding Amara's. I'm not letting either of them out of my sight. Hallie smiled, the first genuine smile Amara had seen from her. I'll draw up the papers. In the meantime, you're all free to go. We have everything we need for the prosecution. What about Mrs. Winters? Amara asked. Is she okay? She's recovering in protective custody. And she's agreed to testify against Dominic in exchange for immunity. Her daughter's treatment is covered by the Witness Protection Program. Hallie closed her files. You saved her life, Ms. Blake. If you hadn't exposed Dominic when you did, she'd be dead. How many people did he kill? Amara asked quietly. That we know of? 3. Victoria, Ellen Zhang, and a whistleblower at Hexagon who tried to expose the trafficking operation 2 years ago. Hallie's jaw tightened. But we're investigating at least 7 other suspicious deaths connected to him. It's going to take years to unravel everything he's done. But he's stopped now, Julian said. That's what matters. Thanks to all of you, especially young Mr. Kingsley. Hallie turned to Eli. You were very brave today. Your mother would be proud. Eli's eyes filled with tears, but he smiled. I know. I feel her sometimes. Like she's still here. Watching. She is, Amara said. Always. They left the hospital at dawn, Amara with her arm in a sling, Eli holding her good hand, Julian with his arm around both of them. Bernard was waiting in the parking lot with Julian's car. I took the liberty of packing some of Master Eli's things, the old cook said, indicating bags in the trunk. And I thought you might need somewhere to stay. Somewhere that isn't the Kingsley mansion. My apartment, Julian said. It's not huge, but there's room. Actually, Bernard interrupted, Ms. Victoria left instructions with her attorney. In the event of her death, her personal estate, separate from Mr. Kingsley's holdings, was to be used to establish a trust for Master Eli. That includes a townhouse in Brooklyn, fully furnished, already in Master Eli's name. She bought him a house. Amara breathed. She bought him a future, Bernard corrected. A place that was his alone. Safe from Mr. Kingsley's influence. He handed Julian a set of keys. The trust also names you, Mr. Corleone, as executor until Master Eli reaches adulthood. Ms. Victoria trusted you to make decisions in his best interest. Julian stared at the keys, his eyes reddening. She planned for everything. She loved her son more than life itself. She made sure he'd be cared for no matter what happened to her. Bernard's voice thick with emotion. I believe she'd be very pleased with how things turned out. And very grateful to you both. Thank you, Bernard, Amara said. For everything. For believing us. For helping us. Thank you for saving the boy, Bernard replied. For giving him his voice back. For making sure Ms. Victoria's death meant something. They said their goodbyes. Bernard returned to the mansion to continue his work. Someone needed to maintain the property while the legal proceedings unfolded. And Amara, Julian, and Eli drove to Brooklyn, to a beautiful brownstone townhouse with a garden, to a place that had never known Dominic's poison, to a home. Inside, the townhouse was warm and welcoming, decorated in soft colors, filled with books and art, with photographs of Victoria smiling from every shelf. Eli walked through it slowly, touching his mother's things with gentle reverence. "She made this for me," he whispered. "My own place, where I could be safe." "She loved you so much," Amara said, kneeling beside him. "I know." Eli looked at a photograph, Victoria holding baby Eli, both of them laughing. "I'm going to miss her forever." "That's okay. That's how love works. It doesn't end just because someone's gone." Eli was quiet for a moment. Then, "Do you think, when I go to Aunt Marie's in California, could you and Julian visit sometimes?" Amara's throat tightened.
Of course we can.
"If your aunt says it's okay."
She will.
"She's nice. She loved Mommy too." Eli bit his lip. "And maybe sometimes I could visit you? For holidays and stuff?" "We'd love that," Julian said, crouching down to Eli's level. "You'll always have a place with us, buddy. Always. Even when you're not my foster parents anymore? Even then, you're stuck with us." Julian smiled. "Besides, someone has to make sure Amara doesn't get into any more trouble." "Hey!" Amara protested. Eli giggled, the first genuine laugh she'd heard from him. The sound was magic. That night, after Eli was tucked into bed in a room filled with toys and books Victoria had chosen for him, Amara and Julian sat together on the couch. The live stream footage was playing on every news channel. Dominic's arrest, his perp walk, his lawyers scrambling to do damage control on a case that was already lost. "Kingsley Industries stock has crashed," Julian reported, scrolling through his phone. "The board is cooperating fully with federal investigators. Hexagon Corporation's CEO was arrested in London. They're finding victims, shutting down trafficking routes, freezing assets." "It's really over," Amara said, still not quite believing it. "The criminal case is just beginning. But Dominic's empire?
Yeah.
That's over." Julian set down his phone, turning to face her. "You did that. You brought down one of the most powerful men in the state. We did it. All of us. You started it. You're the one who saw a scared little boy and refused to look away. You're the one who risked everything, your safety, your freedom, your life, to protect him." Julian's hand cupped her cheek. "You're extraordinary, Amara Blake. Or whatever your real name is." Amara smiled. "It's Amara. Amara Reeves. Blake was my mother's maiden name. I changed it after Nathan died. After I testified and needed to disappear." "Amara Reeves," Julian repeated, like he was tasting the words. "Beautiful. Just like you. Flatterer. Truth-teller." Julian leaned closer. "I meant what I said. I love you. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy." "I love you too," Amara interrupted. "And yes, it's fast and crazy, and we barely know each other outside of life-or-death situations. But I don't care. You're brave and brilliant, and you loved your best friend enough to spend 3 months trying to avenge her murder. How could I not love you?" Julian kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "So," he murmured, "about that dinner I promised you. Is this you asking me on a date, Julian Corleone? This is me asking you for 1,000 dates. Dinners and movies and walks in the park and lazy Sunday mornings and everything normal people do when they're not taking down criminal empires." "That sounds perfect." Amara smiled against his lips. "When do we start?" "How about tomorrow? I'll cook. You and Eli can relax. We'll be a normal family for one night." "Family," Amara repeated, the words settling warm in her chest. "Too soon?" Julian asked, suddenly uncertain.
No.
"It's perfect." Amara kissed him again. "Absolutely perfect." They sat together in the quiet townhouse, holding each other, processing everything that had happened. The battle was won. The monster was caged. The boy was safe. And somehow, impossibly, Amara had found something she'd stopped believing existed. A home. A family. A future. 2 weeks later, the headlines were still dominated by the Kingsley scandal. Billionaire Dominic Kingsley denied bail. International trafficking ring dismantled. Hundreds of victims rescued. Kingsley Industries cooperates with federal investigation. Victoria Kingsley, the woman who brought down an empire from beyond the grave. Amara read them while sitting in the townhouse garden, watching Eli play with a soccer ball Julian had bought him. The boy was different now. Still healing, still grieving, but no longer silent. No longer trapped.
He laughed. He talked.
He asked questions about his mother and cried when he needed to and slowly, gradually began to believe he was safe. Amara, Eli called. Watch this. He kicked the ball clumsily but with pure joy. Amara applauded. Amazing! You're going to be a professional player. Julian says I need to practice more. Eli said seriously. He says practice is how you get good at things. Julian's very wise. Are you guys going to get married? Amara choked on her coffee.
What?
Married. Like Mommy, and Eli's face fell. Like Mommy wanted to be with someone nice. Not like Dominic. Your mom was married to your dad once because she thought he was nice, Amara said gently. People change sometimes. She couldn't have known. But you know Julian's nice, right? He won't change into a bad person. I don't think Julian could be a bad person if he tried, Amara said honestly. But also, we've only known each other for a few weeks. Marriage is a big step. But you love him. And he loves you. Isn't that what matters? Yes, but Amara stopped. When did you get so wise? Mommy always said I was an old soul. Eli kicked the ball again. I think she'd want me to have a family again. A real one. With people who love each other and don't hurt each other. You're going to have that with your Aunt Marie. I know. But I'll have it here too, right? When I visit. You and Julian will be like my other family. My chosen family. Amara's eyes stung. Absolutely. Forever and always. Good.
Eli smiled.
Because I choose you. That evening, Julian came home from a meeting with his new clients, 3 victims of Dominic's trafficking network who'd hired him to represent them in civil suits against Kingsley Industries. How'd it go? Amara asked, handing him a beer as he collapsed on the couch. Heartbreaking. Inspiring. Infuriating. Julian took a long drink. These women have been through hell. But they're so strong. So determined to make sure Dominic and everyone who helped him pays for what they did. Will they win?
Yes.
Between the criminal evidence and Victoria's files, we have everything we need. Kingsley Industries will be paying damages for decades. And Dominic? Julian's smile was grim. He's looking at life in prison without parole. His lawyers tried to negotiate a plea, but Hallie Smith shut them down. She wants a trial. Wants everything he did exposed in public.
Good.
He deserves to have the whole world know what a monster he is. Already happened, thanks to Eli's live stream.
But yes.
He deserves worse than he'll get. Julian set down his beer, pulling Amara into his arms. How was your day? Eli asked if we're getting married. Julian nearly choked. He what? He said he wants us to be a family. His chosen family. That kid is too smart for his own good. Julian was quiet for a moment. What did you tell him? That we've only known each other a few weeks. That marriage is a big step. But, Julian prompted, sensing there was more. Amara turned to face him. But I also think, when you know, you know. And I know that I want to build a life with you. I know that I want to be there for Eli as he grows up. I know that for the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Julian's eyes darkened with emotion. Amara Reeves, are you proposing to me? Maybe I am. What would you say if I was? I'd say you're supposed to wait for me to do the romantic thing with the ring and the speech, and he stopped laughing. Who am I kidding? Nothing about us has been conventional. Why start now? He slid off the couch, kneeling on the floor. Julian, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because you deserve the romantic moment. You deserve everything. He took her hands. Amara Reeves, formerly Blake, breaker of empires and saver of small boys. Will you marry me? Will you build this weird, unconventional, beautiful life with me? Will you let me spend the rest of my days making sure you know how extraordinary you are? Amara was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely yes. Julian kissed her, both of them laughing and crying and celebrating this impossible, wonderful turn their lives had taken. I don't have a ring yet, Julian admitted. I don't care. I'll get you one. The biggest, most beautiful. I don't need big. I just need you. They held each other as the sun set, as Eli played in the garden, as the brownstone filled with the sounds of laughter and hope. Somewhere Amara thought Victoria was smiling. They'd kept their promise. They'd protected her son. They'd brought down the monster. They'd made sure her death meant something. And they'd found love in the ashes of tragedy. Yes, they did it. They actually did it. Dominic's going to prison. Eli is safe, and Amara and Julian are engaged. Are you crying? Because I'm crying. Drop a comment letting me know your favorite moment from this part. I love hearing what resonated with you. And stay tuned because we have one more part to wrap everything up with a perfect ending these characters deserve. 6 months later, Amara stood in the federal courthouse, watching as the jury foreman rose to deliver the verdict. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, victims, activists, and people who'd followed the case from the beginning. Eli sat between Amara and Julian in the front row, wearing his best suit, his small hand gripping Amara's tightly. In the matter of the United States versus Dominic Kingsley, the foreman said, on the charge of first-degree murder in the death of Victoria Kingsley, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom erupted. Eli burst into tears, not of sadness, but of relief. Amara pulled him close as the foreman continued reading, guilty of human trafficking, guilty of money laundering, guilty of racketeering, guilty of obstruction of justice, guilty of attempted murder, guilty on all 37 counts. Dominic sat at the defense table, his expensive suit unable to hide how diminished he'd become. 6 months in jail, awaiting trial had aged him. The arrogance was gone, the power stripped away. He looked like what he was, a criminal caught and condemned. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, Dominic stood. His eyes found Eli. Son, he started. I'm not your son, Eli said clearly, his voice strong despite his tears. My mom was Victoria Kingsley. She was brave and kind and good. You're just the bad man who killed her. And I'm glad you're going to jail forever. Dominic flinched like he'd been slapped. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Kingsley, do you have a statement or not? Dominic was silent for a long moment. Then, quietly, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? The judge pressed. For your crimes? For the lives you destroyed? Sorry I got caught, Dominic said bitterly. The judge's expression hardened. Then let me be very clear about your sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole on the murder charge. An additional 140 years on the remaining counts, to be served consecutively. You will never breathe free air again, Mr. Kingsley. You will spend the rest of your life paying for what you've done. The gavel came down with finality. Guards moved to take Dominic away. As they led him past the gallery, he looked at Amara one last time. You destroyed everything I built, he said.
No, Amara replied.
You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone knew it. Dominic's mask cracked completely then. For just a moment, she saw something that might have been remorse, might have been regret. But then it was gone, and he was just a man being led to prison, to obscurity, to the justice he'd evaded for far too long. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ms. Reeves. Ms. Reeves. How does it feel to have brought down Dominic Kingsley? What's next for you and Eli? Is it true you're getting married to Julian Corleone? Hallie Smith stepped forward, her federal prosecutor's badge glinting. Ms. Reeves will not be taking questions today, but she does have a brief statement. Amara stepped to the microphone, Julian's hand supportive on her back, Eli standing beside her. 6 months ago, I was just a cleaner trying to do my job, Amara said, her voice steady. I met a scared little boy who couldn't speak, who'd witnessed something terrible and had no one to believe him.
This case was never about me. It was about Eli.
About his mother, Victoria, who was brave enough to stand up to a monster. About the hundreds of victims of Dominic Kingsley's trafficking network who've finally gotten justice. About making sure that no matter how rich, how powerful, how untouchable someone seems, the truth will always win.
The cameras flashed.
The reporters shouted more questions. But Amara just took Eli's hand and Julian's, and they walked away. Toward the car waiting to take them home. Toward the life they'd built from the ashes of tragedy. The townhouse in Brooklyn had become a true home. Amara had quit cleaning houses and enrolled in online courses to finish her teaching degree, the career she'd abandoned when Nathan died, the calling she was finally ready to reclaim. Julian had left his position at the corporate firm and opened his own practice specializing in representing trafficking victims and survivors of domestic violence. Between Victoria's trust and the settlements from civil suits against Kingsley Industries, he could afford to take cases pro bono, to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. And Eli? Eli was thriving. After the trial, his Aunt Marie had petitioned for full custody. The court had granted it, with one caveat. Eli would split his time between California and New York. School year with Marie. Summers and holidays with Amara and Julian. It wasn't perfect. Eli still had nightmares sometimes. Still missed his mother with an ache that would never fully heal. Still flinched when men raised their voices, still double-checked locks on doors. But he was healing. Slowly, steadily, beautifully. Amara, Eli called from the garden. Look what Bernard taught me. Amara looked out the window to see Eli carefully tending a rose bush, the same variety that had grown in Victoria's garden at the mansion. Bernard visited weekly, having retired from the Kingsley household with a generous severance package that Eli's trust had provided. He'd become an unofficial grandfather to Eli, teaching him to cook and garden and telling stories about Victoria that kept her memory alive. That's beautiful, sweetheart, Amara called back. Your mom would love it. I know. That's why I planted it. Eli looked up at the sky. So she can see it, wherever she is. Amara's throat tightened with emotion. Julian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. He's going to be okay. I know. We all are. Speaking of which, Julian turned her around, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I have a surprise for you. What kind of surprise? The kind where you need to put on that beautiful dress you bought last month and be ready in 2 hours. Julian Corleone, what did you do? You'll see. He kissed her nose. Trust me? Always. 2 hours later, Amara found herself in Julian's car, blindfolded, while Eli giggled in the back seat. Are you guys seriously not going to tell me where we're going? She demanded. Nope, Eli said cheerfully. It's a surprise. I hate surprises. You're going to love this one, Julian promised. They drove for what felt like forever, out of the city, along winding roads, until finally the car stopped. Okay, Julian said softly. You can look now. Amara removed the blindfold.
And gasped.
They were at a beautiful estate overlooking the Hudson River. The grounds were decorated with thousands of twinkling lights. A small group of people stood waiting. Bernard, Hallie Smith, Mrs. Winters and her daughter, some of Julian's colleagues, and Eli's Aunt Marie. What is this? Amara breathed. Julian took her hand, leading her toward an arbor covered in white roses, Victoria's favorite flower. This, he said, is our wedding. Amara's heart stopped. What? I know we plan to wait, to do something big next summer. But I've been thinking. Julian cupped her face. We've already faced everything that could tear us apart. We've survived the worst. Why wait to celebrate the best? You planned a surprise wedding? Amara laughed through sudden tears. I had help. Julian gestured to Eli, who was grinning proudly. Someone very smart suggested that his mom would have wanted us to be happy. To not wait for perfect timing, because there's never a perfect time. There's only now. You said that. Amara asked Eli. Mommy always said life's too short to wait for someday, Eli said seriously. She'd want you guys to be happy now. And I want you to be my real family. Not just foster family or visiting family. Real family. Amara was fully crying now. Oh, sweetheart. So will you? Julian asked, pulling out a ring, a simple, beautiful band with a single diamond. Will you marry me tonight, Amara? Make this official? Build this life with me and Eli and everyone who loves us. Amara looked at the arbor, at the people gathered, at the man she loved and the boy who'd become her son, in every way that mattered. Yes, she whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. The small crowd cheered. Julian slid the ring onto her finger, kissing her deeply. Wait, we need the ceremony first. Hallie Smith laughed. She was dressed in judge's robes, her legal credentials authorizing her to perform marriages. Let's do this properly. They gathered under the arbor, Amara in her dress, Julian in his best suit, Eli standing between them as their witness. Dearly beloved, Hallie began, we are gathered here in the presence of these witnesses to join Amara Reeves and Julian Corleone in matrimony. As she spoke, Amara felt a presence, warm and comforting. She looked up and could have sworn she saw Victoria in the lights, in the roses, in the smile on Eli's face. Thank you, Victoria seemed to whisper. Thank you for saving him, for loving him, for being the family he needs. Amara's tears spilled over. The couple has prepared their own vows, Hallie said. Julian? Julian took Amara's hands. Amara, 6 months ago, I was lost, grieving my best friend, drowning in guilt and rage and helplessness. And then you walked into that house with your quiet strength and your fierce heart, and everything changed. You gave me purpose. You gave me hope. You showed me that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is care about someone we barely know. Love someone we just met. Fight for someone who isn't ours. His voice cracked. Except you are mine. And I'm yours. And Eli is ours. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you both know how loved you are, how extraordinary you are, how grateful I am that you chose me. Amara could barely see through her tears. Julian, I spent years running, hiding, trying to be invisible because being seen felt too dangerous. And then I met a little boy who needed someone to see him, really see him. And I couldn't look away. You helped me find my courage again. Helped me remember that I'm not just a survivor, I'm a fighter. You made me believe in love again, in family again, in happy endings. She squeezed his hands. I promise to stand beside you, to fight alongside you, to love you through everything that comes, to be the partner you deserve and the mother Eli needs, to build this beautiful, chaotic, unconventional life with you and never take a single moment for granted. Eli, Hallie said gently, would you like to say something? Eli stepped forward, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper with words written in his careful handwriting. My mommy used to say that family isn't always blood, he read. Family is the people who show up, who stay when things get hard, who love you even when you can't talk or you're scared or you make mistakes. He looked up at Amara and Julian. You guys showed up. You stayed. You loved me when I was broken, and you helped me feel safe again. His voice wobbled. So, I want to say thank you for being my family. Thank you for loving my mom enough to get justice for her. And thank you for letting me be part of your story. There wasn't a dry eye under the arbor. Julian knelt down, pulling Eli into a fierce hug. Thank you for being the bravest kid I've ever met. For trusting us. For saving us just as much as we saved you. Amara joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. By the power vested in me by the state of New York, Hallie said, her voice thick with emotion, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Julian stood, pulling Amara close, and kissed her as their family and friends cheered. Eli squeezed between them, and they laughed, including him in the embrace. This was family. This was love. This was everything they'd fought for and nearly died for and never stopped believing was possible. This was their happy ending. and their new beginning. The reception was small but perfect. Bernard had catered, creating Victoria's favorite dishes. Marie shared stories about Victoria as a young woman, brilliant and stubborn and kind. Mrs. Winters, stronger now that her daughter was thriving in treatment, toasted to second chances and the courage to tell the truth. Hallie Smith pulled Amara aside at one point. "I wanted you to know, the victims you helped rescue from Kingsley's trafficking network? 47 of them have been reunited with their families. Another 62 are in rehabilitation programs. And the task force we created based on Victoria's evidence has shut down 3 other trafficking operations in the past 4 months." Amara's hand flew to her mouth. That many, because of what you did, because you refused to look away. Hallie's expression softened. "Victoria would be so proud of all of you." "I wish she was here," Amara said quietly.
She is. Ellie.
"In the lives you saved. In the love you've built from her sacrifice." Hallie squeezed her hand. "That's the best revenge against someone like Dominic. Not just destroying him, but creating something beautiful from the ruins he left behind." Later, as the sun set over the Hudson, Julian pulled Amara onto a makeshift dance floor. "Mrs. Corleone," he murmured as they swayed to soft music. "How does it feel?" "Perfect."
Scary.
"Overwhelming." Amara smiled up at him. "Everything." "No regrets about the surprise wedding?" "Not even one. This is exactly what I needed. What we all needed." She glanced at Eli, who was dancing with Aunt Marie, laughing at something she'd said. "He's going to be okay. Because of you. Because of all of us. Because Victoria loved him enough to leave him everything he needed to survive." Amara rested her head on Julian's chest. "Do you think she knows? Wherever she is. Do you think she knows we kept our promise? I think she's been watching over us this whole time. Guiding us. Making sure we found each other." Julian kissed the top of her head. "I think she's smiling right now." As if in answer, a breeze swept through the garden, carrying the scent of roses. Victoria's roses. Amara closed her eyes and whispered, "We did it. We saved him. And we're going to make sure he has the most beautiful life. I promise." The breeze seemed to wrap around them like an embrace. Then it was gone, leaving only warmth and peace and the certain knowledge that Victoria Kingsley could finally rest. 3 years later, Amara stood in front of her classroom, watching her students work on their assignments. She'd finished her degree, gotten certified, and now taught at a school for children who'd experienced trauma, kids like Eli who needed patient, understanding educators who knew what it was like to survive the unsurvivable. Her phone buzzed with a text from Julian. "Eli's plane lands at 4. Can you pick him up? I'm stuck in court." Amara smiled, typing back. "Already on my way to the airport. See you at home for dinner." She'd been picking Eli up from his visits with Aunt Marie for 3 years now. The routine was familiar, comfortable. Eli spent the school year in California getting good grades and playing soccer and being a regular kid. Then summers and holidays in New York, where he was part of their family. It wasn't traditional, but it worked. At the airport, Amara waited at arrivals, holding a sign that said, Kingsley Corleone. Eli's legal last name was still Kingsley, his birthright, his mother's legacy. But after the adoption finalized 2 years ago, they'd added Corleone, a hyphenate that represented both his past and his future. Amara. Eli emerged from the crowd, no longer a small, frightened 7-year-old, but a confident 10-year-old with Victoria's dark eyes and a smile that could light up the world. He crashed into her with a hug that nearly knocked her over. "I missed you," he said, squeezing tight. "I missed you too, sweetheart. How was California?" "Awesome. I got straight A's and scored 3 goals in my last soccer game, and Aunt Marie taught me how to surf." The words tumbled out excitedly. "But I'm so glad to be home. I missed you and Julian and Bernard, and my room and the garden. We missed you too. So much." Amara ruffled his hair. "Ready to go? Julian's making your favorite for dinner. Lasagna? With extra cheese, just how you like it." As they walked to the car, Eli chatting nonstop about his semester, Amara marveled at the transformation. This was the same boy who'd been silent for 3 months, who'd hidden in corners, drawing evidence because he was too terrified to speak. Now he was thriving.
Happy. Whole.
Hey, Amara, Eli said as they drove home. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Mommy would be proud of me? Of who I'm becoming? Amara's throat tightened. I think she'd be incredibly proud. You're kind and brave and smart. You stand up for people who need help. You're everything she hoped you'd be. I try to be like her. Like how you and Aunt Marie describe her. You're like her, but you're also uniquely you. And that's what makes you special. Eli was quiet for a moment. I'm glad you and Julian adopted me. I know I still have Aunt Marie and I love her. But having you guys too, having two families, it makes me feel really lucky. We're the lucky ones, Amara said. You made us a family, Eli. Before you, we were just two people trying to do the right thing. Now we're something more. We're the Kingsley Corleones, Eli said proudly. The coolest family ever. Amara laughed. The absolute coolest. That night, the townhouse was full of life. Bernard had come for dinner, bringing his famous dessert. Marie had video called to say goodnight to Eli. Even Hallie Smith had stopped by with her sister Emily, the real Dr. Smith, who'd continued monitoring Eli's emotional progress. He's one of the most resilient kids I've ever assessed, Emily reported. The trauma will always be part of his story. But it's not defining him anymore. He's processing it, integrating it, moving forward. That's all we can ask for, Julian said, watching Eli show Bernard a drawing he'd made. Not of trauma this time, but of their family at the beach, smiling and whole. After everyone left and Eli was in bed, Amara and Julian sat in the garden under the stars. 3 years, Amara mused. Can you believe it's been 3 years since that night in the mansion? Best 3 years of my life, Julian said immediately. Even counting the parts where we nearly died. Especially counting those parts. They led us here. Julian pulled her close. I have something to tell you. Amara's heart skipped. Good something or bad something? Interesting something. I got a call today from a publisher. They want us to write a book. About the case. About Victoria's evidence and how we brought down Dominic. A book. Victoria's story.
Told the right way.
Making sure she's remembered as a hero, not just a victim. Julian hesitated. What do you think? Amara considered. For years, she'd hidden from attention. From visibility. From being known. But this was different. This was about honoring a woman who'd sacrificed everything for her son. About making sure other victims knew they weren't alone. About showing that justice was possible even when it seemed impossible. I think Victoria would want her story told, Amara said finally. Not for fame or money, but to help others. To show people that you can stand up to monsters and win. We'll donate the proceeds to anti-trafficking organizations. Make sure it does real good. Then yes, let's do it. Let's tell her story. Julian kissed her softly. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? Not in the last hour. I was starting to worry. I love you, Amara Kingsley Corleone. So much it scares me sometimes. Kingsley Corleone. Amara raised an eyebrow. I kept Reeves, remember? I know. But in my head, you're part of the Kingsley legacy now. The good part. The part that fights for justice and protects the innocent and refuses to stay silent when silence is easier. We're all part of it, Amara agreed. Victoria started it. We're just continuing her work. They sat in comfortable silence, the garden peaceful around them. Inside, Eli slept safely in his room, surrounded by drawings and trophies and photographs of all the people who loved him. This was what victory looked like, Amara thought. Not just bringing down the bad guys, but building something good from the wreckage. Creating a family from survivors. Turning pain into purpose. Julian, she said softly. Thank you. For believing in me. For fighting alongside me. For giving me this life. Thank you for being brave enough to stay when running would have been easier. For loving a broken kid who needed a hero. For being my partner in every way that matters. They held each other as stars wheeled overhead, as the city hummed in the distance, as their son slept peacefully inside. The nightmare was over. The healing continued. And the future stretched ahead of them, full of possibility and hope and love. 5 years after Dominic Kingsley's conviction, Amara stood in a packed auditorium holding a book. Justice for Victoria: How a Mother's Love Brought Down a Criminal Empire by Amara Reeves Corleone and Julian Corleone. The book tour had taken them across the country. Every event was full. Survivors wanting to share their stories, activists seeking strategies, families looking for hope. But this event was special, because sitting in the front row was Eli, now 12 years old and poised beyond his years. Beside him sat Aunt Marie, Bernard, Mrs. Winters and her daughter Hallie, clean and thriving after years of sobriety, and dozens of the trafficking victims who'd been rescued because of Victoria's evidence. Before we begin the Q&A, Amara said into the microphone, "I want to say something. This book isn't really about us. It's about a woman named Victoria Kingsley who was brave enough to stand up to a monster, who gathered evidence knowing it might cost her life, who loved her son enough to make sure he'd be protected even after she was gone." She looked at Eli, who smiled through tears. Victoria didn't live to see justice done, but her legacy lives on in every victim who's been rescued, in every trafficking network that's been shut down, in every person who reads her story and finds the courage to speak their own truth. Amara's voice strengthened, and in her son, who survived the unsurvivable and became one of the kindest, bravest, most extraordinary young men I've ever known. The audience applauded. Eli stood, walking to the stage. He'd asked to speak at this event, to share his own perspective. Amara handed him the microphone. "Hi," Eli said, his voice only slightly nervous.
I'm Ellie Kingsley Corleone.
"And I'm here to tell you that survivors can heal. That kids who've been through terrible things can have good lives. That family is who shows up for you, not just who you're related to by blood." He looked at Amara and Julian in the wings. "My biological father killed my mother. He hurt a lot of people. He tried to hurt me.
But he didn't win.
My mom won, because she left behind evidence that destroyed him. And she left behind people who loved her enough to finish what she started." Eli's voice grew stronger. "Amara and Julian didn't have to help me. They didn't have to risk their lives or fight for justice or adopt a traumatized kid. But they did. They showed me what real parents look like, what real love looks like. They showed me that the people who hurt us don't get to define us, that we get to choose who we become." The audience was silent, rapt. So if you're out there and you're scared and you think no one will believe you or help you, you're wrong. There are people like Amara and Julian everywhere. People who will fight for you. You just have to be brave enough to let them. Brave enough to tell your truth. He paused, swallowing hard. "My mom was brave. She told the truth even though it cost her everything. And I'm going to spend my life making sure her bravery mattered. That her death changed things. That other kids don't have to go through what I went through." The applause was thunderous. Eli returned to his seat, and Amara saw him wipe tears from his eyes. She wanted to run to him, hold him, tell him how proud she was.
But he didn't need that right now.
He needed to know he was strong enough to stand on his own. That Victoria's courage lived in him. After the event, they were surrounded by people wanting to share their stories, to thank them, to find hope in Victoria's legacy. "Your mother saved my daughter," one woman said, crying. "She was trafficked through Kingsley's network. When the FBI raided, they found her, brought her home. She's in college now, studying criminal justice. She wants to help others like your mom helped her." Eli hugged the woman fiercely. "Thank you for telling me. Thank you for letting me know my mom's evidence helped." Story after story, life after life, changed because Victoria had been brave enough to gather proof. Because Amara and Julian had been brave enough to expose it. Because Eli had been brave enough to speak. On the drive home, Eli was quiet. "You okay, buddy?" Julian asked from the driver's seat.
"Yeah.
"Just thinking." Eli looked out the window. "Do you think we're done? Like, have we done enough to honor Mom?" "I think we'll never be done," Amara said gently. "Your mom's legacy isn't something we finish. It's something we live every day. Every time you stand up for someone, Every time Julian takes a case helping survivors. Every time I teach kids who've been through trauma. That's all part of honoring her. So it's not about one big thing. It's about lots of little things. Exactly.
Ellie nodded slowly.
I like that. It means I can keep making her proud for my whole life. You already make her proud, Julian said. Every single day. That night, after Eli was asleep, Amara stood in their bedroom looking at a photograph. Victoria, young and smiling, holding baby Eli. They'd found it in her belongings, framed it, kept it on their dresser where Eli could see it every day. Do you think we did right by her? Amara asked Julian, who was getting ready for bed. Do you think she'd be happy with how we raised him? Julian came to stand beside her, looking at the photograph. I think she'd be grateful beyond words. I think she'd love that Eli has two families who adore him, that he's healing and thriving and becoming an incredible young man, that her death led to so much good, networks shut down, victims rescued, laws changed. But I think she'd wish she was here to see it, to hold her son, to watch him grow up. Julian's voice was thick with emotion. And I wish that for her too. I wish we'd been fast enough, smart enough, brave enough to save her before Dominic. We weren't there yet, Amara interrupted gently. We didn't know her. We couldn't have saved her. But we saved Eli. We saved hundreds of others. We made sure her death meant something. That's all we could do. Julian pulled her close.
I miss her.
Even now. Even after all this time. I know. Me too. Amara kissed him softly. But she's not really gone. She's in every choice we make. Every life we touch. Every moment we spend loving her son. When did you get so wise? I married a brilliant lawyer. It rubbed off. Julian laughed, some of the sadness lifting. I love you, Amara. I love you too. Now and always. They held each other in the quiet bedroom, surrounded by the life they'd built, the family they'd created, the legacy they'd inherited from a woman they'd never stop honoring. On the 10th anniversary of Victoria's death, the Kingsley Corleone family, all of them, gathered at her grave. The modest headstone read,
Victoria Elena Kingsley.
Beloved mother, friend, hero. Her courage changed the world. Eli, now 15 and nearly as tall as Julian, placed roses on the grave, white roses her favorite. Hi, Mom, he said softly. I know you can't answer, but I wanted to tell you some things anyway. Amara and Julian stood back, giving him space. I'm doing good. Really good. I have straight A's. I'm captain of my soccer team. I have friends who make me laugh. Aunt Marie is great. She tells me stories about you all the time. And Amara and Julian, his voice cracked. They're the best parents I could have asked for. After you. He wiped his eyes. I know what you did. I've read your files. I've seen your evidence. I know you died trying to protect me, trying to save all those other people. Eli knelt by the headstone. I just wanted you to know it worked. You did save them. Hundreds of people are free because of you. And I'm safe and loved and happy because of you. The wind rustled through the trees. I'm going to make you proud, Mom. I'm going to college to study law. I want to help people like Julian does. Fight for victims like Amara does. Keep doing the work you started. Eli touched the headstone. I love you. Always. He stood, returning to Amara and Julian. They wrapped their arms around him, the three of them standing together at Victoria's grave. She's proud of you, Amara whispered. So, incredibly proud. I know, Eli said. I can feel it. And in that moment, with sunlight breaking through clouds and roses blooming around the headstone, Amara knew it was true. Victoria Kingsley's spirit lived on, in her son's courage, in the lives they'd saved, in the family they'd become. The nightmare that had begun 10 years ago in a mansion had transformed into something beautiful. Justice had been served. Love had triumphed. And a family forged in tragedy had become unbreakable. Epilogue. 20 years after Victoria's death, Amara received an invitation. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Eli Kingsley Corleone and Maya Santos. She held it with trembling hands, tears streaming down her face.
Her boy. Their boy.
Victoria's boy. All grown up and getting married. Julian, she called. Come see this. Julian, now in his 50s but still as handsome as the day she'd met him, came to look over her shoulder. He's really doing it, Julian breathed. Getting married. We're old. Amara laughed through tears. We're blessed. Julian kissed her temple. Think Victoria's watching? I know she is. The wedding was beautiful, held in a garden overlooking the ocean, with roses everywhere and two families joining together in celebration. Eli stood at the altar in his tuxedo, looking so much like Victoria it made Amara's heart ache. Beside him stood his best man, Julian. And walking down the aisle was Maya, a fellow lawyer Eli had met while working at a nonprofit helping trafficking survivors. She was brilliant and kind and fierce, and Eli looked at her like she hung the stars. During the ceremony, Eli's vows included a tribute to his mother. My mom taught me that love means sacrifice. That real strength is standing up for what's right even when it's terrifying. That family is the people who show up, who fight for you, who never give up on you. He looked at Amara and Julian. I learned those lessons from her. And from the two people who loved me enough to finish what she started. Who showed me that endings can become beginnings. That tragedy can transform into triumph. There wasn't a dry eye in the audience. At the reception, Eli pulled Amara onto the dance floor for the mother-son dance. I wish she was here, he said quietly as they swayed to the music. My birth mom. I wish she could see this.
She is here, Amara said. In you.
In the work you do. In the love you found. She's here, sweetheart. And she's smiling. Thank you, Eli whispered. For everything. For saving me. For loving me. For being the mom I needed when I lost the mom I had. Thank you for letting us love you. For trusting us. For becoming the incredible man your mother knew you'd be. They held each other on the dance floor, surrounded by family and friends and the beautiful life that had grown from unimaginable pain. Later, as the sun set and the reception continued, Amara stood with Julian, looking out at the ocean. We did good, Julian said. We did, Amara agreed. Victoria would be proud. Think we'll see her again? When it's our time? I hope so. I'd love to tell her about Eli. About everything he's accomplished. Everything he's become. She already knows, Julian said. She's been watching. Guiding. Making sure her boy had everything he needed. Amara leaned against her husband, watching their son dance with his new wife, watching the family they'd created celebrate love and life and second chances. 20 years ago, she'd been a cleaner with a fake identity, running from her past. Now she was a teacher, a mother, a wife, an author and advocate. 20 years ago, Eli had been a silent, traumatized child trapped with his mother's killer. Now he was a lawyer, a husband, a hero in his own right, saving others the way he'd been saved. 20 years ago, Victoria had died trying to protect her son and expose a monster. Now her legacy lived on in every person they'd helped, every life they'd touched, every moment of love they shared. The nightmare had ended. The healing continued. And the future stretched ahead, bright and full of hope. I love you, Amara told Julian. I love you too. Always. They stood together as the stars came out, as music and laughter filled the air, as their families celebrated the beautiful truth that love, real, sacrificial, courageous love, always wins in the end. Victoria Kingsley's death had nearly destroyed them, but her love had saved them all. And that love would echo through generations, a testament to the power of one woman's courage and the family who honored her sacrifice by living beautifully, bravely, and well.
I'm sobbing.
Are you sobbing? This journey from that first terrifying moment in the mansion to Eli's wedding has been everything. Thank you so much for being here, for investing in these characters, for believing in their story. Drop a comment and let me know your favorite moment from this entire saga. I want to hear what touched your heart. And if you're not subscribed, Please hit that button because I have so many more emotional, powerful, triumphant stories to share with you. Until next time, remember, courage wins. Love wins. Truth wins. Always.